Hey, welcome inside the studio for another edition of SJHL Insider here at the IKS Media Studios. I'm your host, Clark Munroe, and we have a great show for you today. It's our annual trade deadline preview show. Of course, the trade deadline is on Saturday. It's Thursday today as we record this, so it's an exciting time of year for fans to kind of keep an eye on what their team's about to do, to load up for the playoff spot, or maybe look forward to the future. So we got a lot to talk about today. We're going to break down all 12 teams. We're going to tell you about all the moves that we know for sure have been done. We'll speculate on a couple things, but we can't say some things about certain teams. So we'll do our best to fill you in on what we know, and we'll go from there. But it's going to be an exciting show, so make sure you stick around. Again, the deadline is on Saturday, so about 48 or so hours until that is done, and teams get it on the ice for Saturday night's games. I think the deadline, if I'm not mistaken, is at 5 o'clock. Teams start playing around 7, so there is that deadline there, and we'll check in with all 12 teams to see what we think is going to happen. Of course, a lot that could happen in the next little bit. We think, and we'll talk about this when we dive in a little bit deeper, but we think all the way down to team number 10 in our standings might look at buying in some form. So it's going to be an exciting couple of days to see what happens, or maybe it'll be a slower couple days than we think, but we'll talk about it. Let's thank our sponsors to get us off the ground. Of course, we'll start with Cantera Seeds, Canalta Hotel, Capital Auto Malls, SGEU, Sask Lotteries, UPL, of course, the sponsor of all of our broadcasts, Chevrolet, Great Western Brewing Company, SaskTel, RBC, Saskatchewan Construction Safety Association, and Vaterstad. And with that, this guy was all very familiar with Vaterstad in the last week or so, and I know that because he came in today and he thought today was Monday. He thought today was SJHL Weekly, and so he was ready to go for SJHL Weekly. But Nugsy, it's Thursday, and I'm with you. It's been a scrambly week, so thanks for coming in.
But still an L.
Yeah, good effort. Yeah, thanks, Bryce.
Yeah.
Nugsy, welcome, and thanks for popping in. It's an exciting time of year.
Yeah, I mean, I like transaction time, trade deadline time, but I also always think, and I'm sure people at home, especially if you're a billet or you're a parent, like this is a tough time too. So I do think to myself, and I tell myself, like, don't get so excited because this is the life of young men.
Yeah.
Getting changed and very much disappointed, and families get disappointed, and it's an emotional time too. So as fun as it is kind of from kind of a fantasy hockey perspective, it's also a heavy time. So I'm definitely going to try to keep that in mind. I'm sure you are as well.
Yeah, for sure. Of course. I think the biggest thing that I personally try to take the perspective of is most of the times that a trade happens in this level of junior hockey, it's to provide a kid with an opportunity in a different spot that that might be better for them. So that's the way I look at a lot of these trades. Some of them, it's not quite the case necessarily, but I think a lot of the time it's a coach doing their best to find an opportunity for a guy, or if they're on a team where maybe we're not striving for the playoffs, or we know we're kind of out of the picture right now. We want to give our top players a chance, or our 20-year-olds a chance to maybe make a run on a playoff run with a team that's contending. So that's the way I try to look at it, as opportunity based. I know that's not always, it's not surface level if you're a parent and your kid gets traded and he wasn't expecting to, or whatever the case may be. I know that's tough, but the way I look at it is it's more often than not to try to provide an opportunity for a kid to get some playing time, or a better chance to play more often, or whatever it happens to be. So keep that in mind, as Nugsy said. We're not trying to celebrate anything specifically, but it's interesting.
It is interesting for sure. And I also think the last thing I'll say before I guess we get into actual content too is, I had a really good chat with Mike Reagan, the head coach and GM of the Flin Flon Bombers last year after the trade deadline. Obviously talking around the Liam Hunks trade there. That was obviously a big move. Sending Wiley Smith and Evan Bissell back to Notre Dame. And Mike was like, in this day and age, and I've always tried to operate this way, speaking as Mike, the 12 of us are not trying to rip each other off either. We understand that relationships are important with each other in this league, within the coaches too. So Nobody's trying to rip each other off. They're trying to give each other value too. It maybe in past times and in different groups of coaches, maybe then people are like, it's all for one and whatever. But in this day and age, it's a little bit of a different tone too. So that's interesting.
And I think too, I've heard some war stories from like the 90s and 80s and
trying
stuff.
To rip each other off.
And that's what it was. But I think a big part of that change, Nugsy, and I think Reagan would agree, and a lot of the coaches today would agree, is there's so much more information available nowadays.
Great point.
And available for them to just kind of check a guy out or talk to people and get references. It's easier now than it ever has been. So it's not just that they're all, in a similar brotherhood or whatever you want to call it as coaches, but it's harder to rip a guy off now because the guy will be like, well, no, I know this or I know that or whatever. So yeah, value for value is always the case. And like you said, even the bitterest of rivals in this league of our 12 coaches, when it comes to if there's a trade that's going to happen between the two teams, they will work together to make sure as much of the right thing can happen as possible. So I agree with you. But Nugsy, you know what time it is at this time of the show? We're going to throw some hats. It's time for the hat trick.
There we go.
Yeah. Look at that.
Oh,
Hell yeah. Look at the boys in the back.
Jordan with the dance party in the back.
See, the best part about this is I know for a fact that, especially with this show, because of the format of today's show compared to other insiders, they're like fist pumping right now. They're about to take a nap for about 45 minutes.
Well, and then they're going to yell at us to stop talking.
To hurry up and finish the show. Today on the show, the hat trick's going to be basically the entire show. We're going to get into a recap and topic number 1 of the last couple days. Topic number 2 is going to be our standings update. So we'll update you on where the league sits going into tonight's games and into the trade deadline weekend. And then topic 3, we're going to break down all 12 teams across the league, talk about strengths, weaknesses, what we think the team might need, maybe a wish list item or 2 for each team. So that's going to be the bulk and pretty much the majority of this show. And then we'll look ahead to the rest of the weekend, of course, because we got 2 games tonight. We have 6 games tomorrow night. All 12 teams are in action tomorrow. And I think it's 2 games on Saturday. Only 2 games. I think coaches like not playing on trade deadline day. So I think a bunch of the coaches this year were like, let's not play on Saturday if we can. But a couple teams had to, so there's a couple of games on Saturday. But let's start with the recap of Tuesday. There has been 1 game on Tuesday, 1 game on Wednesday. The Sask Lotteries look back. Here's the Elk Ridge scorecard. Shout out to Elk Ridge. Nugsy, you were there not that long ago, actually, Elk Ridge.
It was beautiful, yeah.
Yeah. Tuesday, this was an unbelievable finish. Holy cow.
Every time Battleford's and Nipawin. This was the third matchup.
Where are they in the standings? Are they going to play in the playoffs? They could.
Yeah, well, 3 and 4 in the league right now. Every time those 2 teams have played, I'm sure Tad Kozin and Connor Logan are just ripping their hairs out.
Yeah, their heads off.
Their heads off. Well, each other's heads off. 29 goals combined in 3 games. For these 2 teams, it was 7-6 last time they played. It's 6-5 this one.
Yeah,
big comeback for Battleford's. Yeah. That team doesn't quit.
Yeah. We'll dive into that in a sec. Let's talk about Wednesday's game because it was also an interesting one, but maybe not for the same reason. The Flin Flon Bombers, holy cow. Did they... Now, I went into this, I made the game day video for this one, and I said, going into this game, Flin Flon is first in the league in goals for, and L'Orange is second in the league in goals against. But who knows? And Flin Flon didn't care. They were like, well... That's what we are, and this is what we're going to do. And it was a 10-3 victory, 68 shots on net. We'll talk about that in a second too, Nugsy. But let's dive back into Tuesday if you don't mind. So Battleford 6-5 win over Nipawin. What this does for the standings, which we won't show yet, we'll talk about that in a second. But Battleford's leapfrogs Estevan. So they went from 5th to 4th after this win. And Nugsy, this was a game Nipawin. I mean, I hate to say it, but they had no business losing this game. Up 5-2 with under 5 minutes left in the second period. You got a 3-goal lead. Obviously, Battleford scored 1 to kind of finish off the period and then scored 3 in the third. At home, of course, in Battleford's. So that probably played a little bit of a factor. But this was a very impressive and important win for the Battleford's North Stars, I would say. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I mean... Again, Connor Logan, I'm sure, would like to see them have better starts, maybe be a little bit more defensively responsible. You know how electric the Nipawin offense can be, and now it's even better now that Braden Jockums is up to speed.
Yeah.
He looks awesome.
Jeez.
Ashton Tate hadn't played in a month, and he's back. So good news on a lot of fronts too for the Nipawin Hawks
and for Bryce and
for
the
Bryce,
Crew's fantasy team for Tate at least.
For sure, yeah. And this league is better with Ashton Tate, in it for sure. So awesome for them. And
here's the final goal, Nugsy, with the audio on it.
Kinetic trailing. Now
Beautiful.
Campbell goes wide. He bends on the shot. Campbell brings it around the net. He puts it. Kinetic scores!
Wild.
Yeah, 11.7 seconds.
Short-handed with 11 seconds left to go. Puts the North Stars up 6-5. Wow.
Man. And that's Ryan Lambert on the call.
Yeah.
So shout out to Ryan Lambert.
And Captain Clutch there again for Soupy Campbell. We talked about Ty Henriksen scoring the team game tying goal in the gold medal game there of the Viking Cup, but that doesn't happen unless Anthony Campbell tips in that wrist shot from Rylan Williams earlier in the third period too. So, and then get off the bus, have a little bit of a rest, and then Anthony Campbell jumps in, scores a goal to tie a game with 2 minutes and 20 seconds left in the third, and then assists on Kinetic, his winner there. So a couple dramatic days there for Anthony Campbell. Boy, is he a good hockey player.
Man,
He's
is
so
he ever.
good. He's so slick and fun to watch and a nice guy to talk to too, for sure. But hey, cool. And then, the last thing I'll say too is Carter Geisen just keeps flying. 3 games in a row for him with multi-point games. 4 games in a row with a goal for Geisen. We talked a lot about him on SJHL Weekly, just how impressed we were as a call-up he was in the playoffs last year. And we talked about Klippenstein a lot. We've talked about him. We've talked about Nardelli and what he can do, and obviously Campbell. But now it's Carter Geisen, and it's just a new hero every night. And I think we were texting Clark about this Battleford's lineup a little bit. And you're like, look what line Klippenstein
Noted
is on.
fourth liner Finley
quote unquote.
Klippenstein.
But the depth up front for Battleford's has to be respected.
Yeah.
Now, when it's not a fourth line, it's another really good line. Like it's, they added Nelson. He's been a perfect fit from Melfort.
That's what I thought.
Like
I had
you
a
keep
feeling.
going down. You're absolutely right. And you go down the list, it's hard to stop this Battleford's team.
Yeah, I think
you got 4 good lines.
Nugsy, we talk a lot this season, and maybe we'll get into this in the 12-team conversation a little bit deeper. But we've talked a lot about teams like Nipawin's forward depth. We've talked about teams like Flin Flon's forward depth. We haven't given battle, like I think you just said, and I'll take responsibility too. We haven't talked about Battleford's forward depth as a unit that is on that level, and I think they're trying to tell us something.
Well,
But like I said, I can't remember exactly when it was. I think it was closer to the Mushamansky Owen Nelson trade, and I said I think Owen Nelson's going to be a great fit. I think it took a little while for that to get going. I think they had to find the right combinations, but now he's playing on a line with Carter Geisen, and since that's been going on a regular basis, like you said, man, Carter Geisen has taken off, and it's exciting because he's an exciting player. And what is he, second on the team in goals? And
12,
he's considered a third liner, according to the lines, right?
Yeah, I'm sure Lammer or Connor or whoever's putting the lineups together have a fun time. Every night. Right
That's a
now.
great group.
But I mean, when you have a first line center that is one of the best first line centers in the league, that just brings everything else together. When you don't really know who that guy is, it changes a whole lineup. They talk about the spine, obviously goalie. Having that big number 1 D-man and that number 1 centerman. And really there are not too many, if any, better first-line centermen in the SJHL than Anthony Campbell.
Yeah.
He was so good at the Viking Cup. And he's been so good since he got back from the Viking Cup once again. And he wins every face-off.
Yeah,
so he's so good.
Well, he's always been in the top 5 of face-offs all year, which is what a segment we've done here on SJHL Insider to keep up with that kind of stuff. But I think another underrated move, and I'll save the really bulk of this part of the conversation for the team breakdowns. Alessio Nardelli has been a super underrated addition to this team, but we'll talk about that in a bit. Let's talk about Wednesday's game a little bit here, Nugsy. Obviously, it's the number 1 team flexing their muscle against the last place team, and I think it was just wrong place, wrong time. I think more or less for the L'Orange Ice Wolves at this one. Flin Flon was hungry. I think they got all their guys back from the Viking Cup, and they looked strong. And what else can you say When you're a team as good as Flin Flon has been, especially in the last couple months, and they're rocking some new jerseys, by the way.
The
just
Water
watching,
Bombers.
Yeah, watching the highlights here. I should have paid more attention to that part of it, but they're rocking some new jerseys, which is fun. I'll have a better look at that after we talk about this. But wow, they flex their muscles, and I think that's kind of that's the most we can say about this one is they showed up and they showed what they can do.
Yeah, they got 4 good lines. They got, for Finn Werner's been everything they would have hoped to be. Didn't need him too much, I guess, today. Obviously, the side story maybe to this one was the 2 teams that were mostly heavily hit with those northern fires in the summer as well, going at it once again. And these 2 teams have played each other a bunch lately. Obviously, you think about the SaskTel game of the month there, and it's kind of all gone Flin Flon's way. Now, that being said, obviously at the Viking Cup, again, it was so cool for me, again, to build some of those relationships, get some insight into these kids, and Graham Brown's attitude, his competitiveness, absolutely first class. Again, he made about 4,000 saves in this game. It could have been, believe it or not, worse if it wasn't for Brownie. So, again, kudos to the Flin Flon Bombers. They took care of business. Ryder Muka being back, obviously, is a big deal for them. Obviously, he was dealing with an injury for a while. But the Flin Flon Bombers, man, they are for real. We've known that for a while.
Yeah.
They are the highest ranked team in the league according to the SJHL ranking. I think they got them at 13 now. And all guns are blazing. But I think the biggest thing for Flin Flon right now is this is the healthiest they've been all year too. So scary to face them right now. And they're 15-0 in Flin Flon. I was joking around with Joey and Arbs and Sam Ward a little bit at the Viking Cup. Like, you think you guys are going to go like 28-0 at home this year or something, or whatever half of the schedule?
I mean,
but they're 15-0 now at home at the Whitney. So
wild.
Whitney's always tough, but they know they got momentum and belief there too. And guess what, Larange? You got Flin Flon on Friday, so that's great.
Woo! Let's have a look at the topic number 2 here.
Yeah.
We'll dive into the standings now. Again, as we head into the trade deadline weekend, here's how it looks. The Flin Flon Bombers, they have played the most games in the league, but they do have 49 points. It's a 5-point cushion now on Weyburn for second place. Weyburn's in second place with 44. Nipawin's in third with 41. Of course, Battleford's has moved up to fourth place with 40 points, so they're hot on the heels of Nipawin. And guess who plays this weekend? Not Nipawin, I guess that was the bad way to tease that. Weyburn and Battlefords have a back-to-back Thursday,
tickets
tonight, and Friday night.
Get those tickets.
Holy cow. Estevan's in 5th with 39 points. Yorkton's in 6th with 36. Of course, they have 2 games in hand on Estevan, so that's 4 points. That's a possible leapfrog as well. Kindersley's in 7th now. Holy cow, how have the mighty have fallen with these next 2 teams. Kindersley and Humboldt are in 7th and 8th. And Nugsy, we were talking last night a little bit and how these 2 teams were in 1st and 2nd place not that long ago, it feels like. But at the same time, in saying that, it feels like it was a long time ago that they were in 1st and 2nd place. So we'll see what their approaches are this next couple of days. That's going to be interesting. Melville, they're in 9th, 2 points out of a playoff spot, but they have made some moves. We'll get into that in a moment. Melfort, 25 points in 10th place, so that makes them 9 points out of a playoff spot. Oof, the decisions there are going to be interesting, but at the same time, we'll talk about it when we get into their breakdown. Sounds like they might make a push, so we'll see what happens there. Warman with 20 points in 11th, and Larange in last place with 16. So, Nugsy, that brings us... Actually, let's look at the division standings, I guess. We should probably bring up the sponsors. Yeah. The Bungie division is a insanely talented division. It's going to be very interesting to see if all 4 teams can make the playoffs. I'm having a good conversation on Twitter right now with our friend Sal Wallishin, and he's like, man, the Bungie division, this was on, I think in regards to the Tyler Palin reacquisition by the Yorkton Terriers, and he said, man, that division just keeps getting stronger. They're already good, all of them, and I'm like, I think they're all making the playoffs. So we might have a conversation on our hands with that. But look at that division right now. The UPL division with Flin Flon at the top. Nipawin has struggled in their last 10 games, but they're still obviously in 3rd place in the league. So I'm not going to say they're struggling. Just in the last 10 games, they're playing 500 hockey, which, you know what, isn't bad. But, you know, we're used to seeing them win 7 of 10 or 8 of 10 for a while there. And then the Nutrient division, Battlefords has taken the lead in the last couple of weeks. Kindersley and Humboldt are there in 2nd and 3rd in the Nutrient. So it's going to be an interesting kind of finish. It's going to be an interesting finish because I want to see what happens with Kindersley and Humboldt. Those are my teams to watch in the next couple days to see what they decide to do. But Nugsy, let's get into it now. This is what everyone's here for. It's trade talk time. It's trade deadline time. Obviously, today is Thursday. The deadline is 2 days away as of you're listening to this, if you're listening to it on Thursday. We have seen I'm going to call it a slew. I'm going to call it a slew of moves already. And largely yesterday. Yesterday was a big day for whatever reason. And Nugsy, this is another aspect of this that I didn't really think of until just a few days ago, and I don't think we've really chatted about it. But our deadline, the SJHL, and the WHL deadline are different days this year. And I feel like it's been the same day for a long time.
Yeah.
But the deadline for the WHL is today. It ends today for those listening.
Well, they wanted it to be ahead of the weekend there.
Yeah. So the WHL moved theirs up a couple days, which now gives teams a little bit extra time to react, because sometimes there's a reaction to what happens, and it's usually like a 5-hour window to scramble, like if this kid gets released, or if this kid gets released, or if this kid gets sent down but needs a new home,
or if his rights are traded from one WHL team to another, but he's playing Junior A or whatever.
So now there's 2 days in between, which I don't know if that's good or bad. I'm assuming for coaches, they probably appreciate a little bit less. What's the word I'm looking for? Urgency. There's a little bit more wiggle room there, which is, I'm assuming, is nice. If any coaches want to chime in on that, let us know.
Well, I mean, I think it was, one example, I guess we'll get to it. The example that sticks out for us in the present moment, obviously, is Prince Albert. They're keeping Steele Bass, and they released Dimitri Fortin. So Battleford has some time now to react to that and pick up another goalie. So,
Whereas in past years, they'd be like, oh God, we got to get some goalie from somewhere. I don't know anything about the kid. Let's pick him up. But now they have a little bit of time. Steele Bass staying with the Prince Albert Raiders for the rest of the year. Great point.
Great spot for him.
Oh, yeah. And it sounds like they love him there. So
he's doing great.
Shout out to him. He had a great showing here with Battlefords while he was with us in this league, and he found a good home. So good for him. But let's, Nugsy, talk about each individual team. We'll break it down team by team. We'll go in the order of this current standings. So that means we're going to start with the Flin Flon Bombers. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll see a graphic come up with kind of all the team stats that you need to know about this team. If you're listening on the podcast, I'll try my best to illustrate as much as I can. They have a 24-9-0-1 record. They have 3 shootout wins in that mix with 49 points. Leading scorer Joey Lees has been fantastic this year. They have a ton of scoring depth. They have a really solid defensive group, and their goaltenders at the bottom of that list. Finn Werner has been almost unbeatable since joining the league, and he's an 08. He is a 17-year-old goaltender. Wow. And Devin Peck, a 20-year-old, has been nothing but respectable and solid all season long. Nugsy, I think we talked about it last night. He had like 3 rough weeks. Other than that, he's been really good. But I don't know what's going to happen with that situation. I'm talking about the whole team in general. This is a year, Nugsy, that it seems to me another year with Flin Flon domination. It took a little bit. We weren't quite sure, but I think we're at a point now where we're like, yep, this team's for real again. If you look at their stats, their team stats on the right side of this graphic, all of them are basically first or second. Their PK's in 5th, which is still very good, and they're very disciplined, which I think that's rated 8th, as in that's good, or it says fewest to most. So they're not as disciplined. I think that means that they're on the bottom half of discipline, but it is the Flin Flon Bombers.
How many of it is Landon Alexander?
Well, I was going to say that.
I love Landon Alexander. Okay. Oh, he has 46 PIMs, Landon Alexander. Not bad.
But that's Flin Flon Bomber hockey. We've known that for a long time. That's how they play. So if their penalty kill is going to be top 5, they can take a few penalty minutes. I also just want to mention at the bottom of this graphic, you'll see that the Capital Automotive Group is offering $1,000 for a trade-in bonus. If you trade in a car, you get an extra $1,000 if you simply just say the words SJHL, the letters, I should say. Say the word SJHL, and you'll get an extra $1,000. That's going to be a big theme for today because they are the official trade sponsor of the SJHL. So, Nugsy, we'll bring it back into the studio now. When we think about the Flin Flon Bombers, we'll start with what are their strengths. I feel like most of what they have is strengths, everything. But when you think about them specifically, is there a couple things that really stand out?
Yeah, I mean, I think about just the culture that they set right away. that, when a coach knows in his heart whether his team has got the heart that it wants early, and then you build around that and you feel better about it, and you feel, when, like kind of with the Blue Jays right now, like they feel like they've got the culture, the room. It's all pointing to whatever it takes for the Toronto Blue Jays to win the World Series in 2026. Management is going to do that. Feels like Mike Reagan believes in this group, in this core, in the culture, in the leadership, so much that I think he'll do whatever it takes in the next couple of days. Again, not that he doesn't every year, but I think you get a little bit more extra juice when you really believe in the way they're going about winning. A couple of years ago when they had that super team, especially in the second half, Mike wasn't always thrilled with the way they played, just because they knew they were more talented than a lot of teams. They'd kind of put their foot off the gas. And, unfortunately for them, and those were great players, and the margins were actually small when you go back, look at it with that series with Melfort, but they didn't really get found out until the finals. This year, again, I almost feel like the culture and the core is better even than that, just in terms of the heart and the way that they're buying into what Mike is preaching. So, anything can happen.
I think, and if anybody's watching on YouTube and they're like, Clark, you're not even paying attention to what Newsy's saying. I'm scrolling Twitter to see minute to minute if there's any updates. So stick with me here. I am listening. But I think to your point, Nugsy, I think that the other part of that is we talk about Flin Flon over the years, how they've always seemed to make a pretty solid big move, more or less. Like we think about last year was the Liam Hunks deal. Obviously, that was, I think, one of the bigger ones at the deadline or around the deadline. But maybe we said, is there more that they could do? Maybe there was more that they could do. But that was a pretty big move. This year, to me, just from an outsider Hawkeye perspective, I'm thinking comparatively. And when I say that, I mean Mike Reagan needs to think comparatively to the rest of the league. How are we looking right now? And in other years, there has always been a super team or two. There has been the Battlefords era. There was the Melfort last couple years run. But there was always like a counter foe, a counter nemesis, where there was another team. This year, because how spread out the league is, if Flin Flon decides this year, let's make a splash with a capital S and a period at the end of it, maybe this is the year where they can separate themselves entirely. So maybe
it'll be tough.
It'll be tough.
I think it's tougher than ever to separate yourself fully.
Right. But I don't know what's out there. We've heard some things. Maybe we'll talk about it with other teams and just like of what directions certain teams might go. So maybe there's something. But if there's an opportunity for Flin Flon to maybe make a move that could put them in a different stratosphere compared to the rest of the league, comparatively, that's my theme for them. This might be the year where Mike Reagan can say, guys, we're winning this year. Let's put a stamp on it.
I just feel... I don't feel like there's anything about this season in the SJHL that's or like even in Flin Flon really that's different. I just think that Mike really believes in the core and the culture in a way that maybe he hasn't in other years.
But I think that leads to that builds all what I just was saying. When there's that belief.
I think it's no matter what they do, it'll be hard to separate. I still don't see any one sort of super team.
No, you're
unless Flin Flon can play the rest of their games with the Whitney Four, in which case I'm sure Kyle McIntyre won't agree to that.
No, probably not.
Nor would other teams.
No, I don't think so.
But
sorry guys.
There's so many good teams in the league. So.
No, you're right. But I think the way, like you said, the way that they've built their team over the last couple of years is they've slowly gotten a bit younger. And kudos to Mike Reagan and company.
I think the whole league has too.
The whole league has, for sure. But what I'm saying is, like, they've had some guys that have been around with that team now for a few years. They've kept a good nucleus together. And those guys were role players, and now they're the stars. So they are hard to play against.
Yeah.
Like, they know how to play.
The second fewest goals in the league.
Yeah.
They've only given up 90 goals.
And they found the way to put the puck in the net.
They've given up the fewest goals against per game in the league, 90 goals in 34 games. So
it's a dangerous combination. And all I'm saying is, from Mike Reagan and company and everybody who's involved in the personnel side, is if there's a year, personally, just from the outsider perspective, to try and do a big move to separate, a little bit more, maybe this is the year, because there's always been that Melfort or that Battlefords or whoever, Estevan a few years ago, whoever was in the way, there was always another team that was in that realm. This year, because there's like 6 or 7, no, shoot, I said it. Because there's 7 or so teams that are in a very similar group, I'm not, maybe it's time, I don't know, maybe it's time is all I'm going to say. Nugsy, if there's a wish list item for this team, what would you say it might be?
I mean, I talked to John Clausen earlier in the year when Flin Flon was in Warman, their scouting guru, and he said that the thing that they're looking for, I guess, is kind of a big-time veteran goal scorer. Again, where do you find that? I don't know. But, I mean, getting a lot of guys who can put the puck in the net, but they don't know how necessarily have the man.
Right.
You mentioned Peck. I like Devin, don't get me wrong. Seems like a terrific young man. Is he the guy that the Bombers ride to the championship? I don't know that for a fact.
Right.
So maybe a goalie and maybe a forward.
Okay, interesting.
That's what I would say.
Love that. Well, with that, we've spent a lot of time on Flin Flon, so let's move on, because I'm sure every other team's like, all they do is talk about Flin Flon.
Oh, I heard that.
Sorry, guys. We're going to move on. I promise we'll talk about all the other teams equally. Equally.
We'll try.
The Weyburn Red Wings, Newsy. This team, to me, I'm not going to call them, and please, Cody Mapes and company, don't take this the wrong way. I'm not going to call them overachievers. They're exceeding what I had for expectations.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say. And I'm pumped for them.
Sure.
I'm pumped for them. This is great. And the pickup of Joey Roca last week, huge. And you know what? Nate Stevens, what a performance he has put together as a young goalie in this league. He's the next one. But picking up a guy like Joey Roca with the experience he has, he's already played a really good game against Estevan over the weekend. I love that. They're 21-9-1-1 coming into this weekend, 44 points against second place. So you can see in the team stats, they're top 4 in a bunch of categories this year. 8th in the PK. It's still a pretty good percentage, but they'll want to pick that up. 8th in goals against, and hey, Joey Roca might help with that. But Josh Sale has led the way. Lucas Schmid has led the way. Callis Pierce has led the way. They've had a lot of guys kind of find opportunity on this team and really take a run with it. They're deep. They play the right way. They're quick. They're physical. They know what they're like. There's so many positives about this Weyburn Red Wing team. So I guess let's start with them. What's their strength? What's their positives?
Their biggest strength is their soul. I love the heart and the guts and the way that this team has played from the puck drop of this season. Have they won every game? No. Have they had some rough spells? Yes. But they learned something, I think, big time from that final against Melfort. They are heavy. I think they miss Max Chakrabarty on their power play. Of course, who wouldn't?
Sure.
Who wouldn't? But, it's not easy to find Max Chakrabarty.
No.
But look, there's a real soul, and obviously, again, getting to know, Drew Moldy a little bit, talk about leadership. Lucas Schmid, obviously, talk about leadership. Talk about guys who have been there. And then, man, just watching Josh Sale, I texted Cody, from the first practice, I think, at the Viking Cup. I was like, Josh Sale is fast. Like, I was on, ice level there on the bench and just watching that guy skate. I was like, this kid is electric, and he was terrific as well. Viking Cup, and really fun guy to be around. But there's lots of heart on this Weyburn team that have been to the deepest parts of the finals and been to the deepest parts of their souls, where they look back and had to look in the mirror and say, was that the best we could do? Because we looked at the talent of the Weyburn Red Wings last year, and we said, they're more than a match for Melfort, we thought. And they gave the good battle for sure in the finals, but it was maybe shorter than we all maybe thought. So I think they looked in the mirror, and then obviously Joey Rocha is, I think, the piece that they were missing. With no disrespect to Preston Patnod, of course, who they moved to Melville, but obviously you want a veteran guy usually in this league to go far, and this Weyburn team is win now. They just have guys in the right places. They've got heart. Obviously we talked a lot about Josh Carman, how many pucks he wore during the finals last year, just block shots. Luke Schrader's taken a big step forward offensively year. Simon Martin we knew would be a stud, but he's been so consistent. Their decor is their strength. Their back end now is their strength when you talk about Rocha and that too. So Cody Mapes has got to be a big man, a big smile on his face. I mean, he's a big enough man too, but big smile on his face. And I just love
so muscly.
I love
Cody.
the soul.
So muscly,
I love
big
the
man
soul
and
there
muscles.
in Weyburn. I talk about soul a lot, and they have it.
Yeah, and Will Munroe was a really nice pickup for them.
Yeah.
They've already made that big trade.
Well,
They got
pure
Will
offense
Munroe.
is hard to find,
Yeah.
man. So
Yeah.
hard to find, especially this year. There's just not hanging around. So to find a guy like that, you can just say, hey, just go be you, be
Right.
creative.
So
Be a
this
good fit.
team has already made, if you look at the Will Munroe and the Joey Roca move, they've had.
It's Rocha.
Is it Rocha for sure?
Rocha,
All right,
yeah.
go with Rocha. They've made 2 nice moves already. Acquisitions, I'll call it. Is there more in the tank for them? I don't know. But you know what I forgot to do, Nugsy?
What did you forget to do?
Talk about the trades that have already happened, because I was going to show the graphics before we started all of this.
Sure.
So let's do that now. Sorry, Jordan, because Jordan's back there probably just like waiting to click it. Sorry, buddy. Let's bring up the trades that have already happened. We'll get this out of the way so that we can talk about it, because you mentioned Preston Patnaud, and we didn't talk about it yet. So let's get that out of the way. A couple of days ago, 6 days ago now, Battleford's acquired Alexander Coventry from the Bonnyville Pontiacs, 6'7" defenseman. Holy cow! A couple of days ago, Kindersley picked up Hunter Motley from the Olds Grizzlies. He's a 20-year-old forward.
Guess they're a motley crew now.
Yeah, he's joined the Motley crew. But he's a 20-year-old. Thanks. He's a 20-year-old forward from the Olds Grizzlies, and this was in reaction, I would guess, to the team lost leading scorer Avery Johnson over the Christmas break to the BCHL. So Hunter Motley fills that hole. A couple days ago, fills that hole in terms of adding a forward to the group. The Melville Millionaires a couple days ago traded Carter Turchak and the SJHL list rights to Carter Wingert, and their 4th-round pick in the 2010 draft in this year's upcoming draft to the Larange Ice Wolves for their captain, Zane Normand. And I feel like we'll get to that when we talk to Melville, but I feel like a really nice fit for that team for what they need right now.
I like Wingert, though. I think he'll be good.
Definitely.
Like
definitely.
big boy 08.
Yeah. But I think when we get to what else has happened, the Highway 10, holy cow, they've been figuring some stuff out. They've been adding some guys. They're loading up in Highway 10 in the Parkland region. Then after the last trade I mentioned, Larange traded Trevor Oishi, who we don't know exactly what the situation was there, but he wasn't playing games for the team. He was off their list, I believe, or off their team, I should say. But they traded him to Warman for a PDF, and I think that's a really good fit for Warman. Love that pickup for them. Then Weyburn, because of the Joey Rocha news, they traded Preston Patnaud to the Melville Millionaires. They needed a goalie.
And Cody needed to find a home for Preston.
And Preston needed a spot, and this is a perfect fit for both sides. For all 3 sides, really. The Melville Millionaires pick up their goalie, 2006-born goalie, who they can bring back next year, of course. And he's been playing great this year, and hardworking kid by all accounts. So love that fit for both teams. Then Melfort, Ryder Ellis, who came over a little early on in the season from the WHL. They traded him to the AJHL, the Lloydminster Bobcats, for Connor Iwazik, who's a forward, I believe, and a PDF. So Melfort adds a forward. They move out the big defenseman. Then the next set of moves, we're not done with the Lloydminster Bobcats yet. We'll get back to them in a sec. Yorkton. This should say Yorkton. Yorkton trades Zach Hertz and Dylan Ruff to their, Zach Hertz is, I believe, is in 06. Dylan Ruff, I believe, is in 07. To the Swan Valley Stampeders for Gavin Bartha. Nugsy, this is a big addition for Yorkton. We'll talk about that a little bit more when we get to Yorkton in this talk. But Gavin Bartha, a 2006, so a 19-year-old defenseman. He's the assistant captain for the Swan Valley Stampeders. I feel like he has a chance to play a lot of minutes and have a really big role with Yorkton. We'll talk about him in a minute. The Humboldt Broncos then traded Oakley McElwain. Now, this is going to be something we're going to talk about when we get to Humboldt. What's going on in Humboldt? But Oakley McElwain, who we both thought before the season started could be in contention for Defenseman of the Year. They have traded him, their number one defenseman, to the Lloydminster Bobcats, his hometown, or he's from that area, for Morgan Hackman and future considerations. Now, the future considerations that I saw from the Lloydminster tweet that they put out, Carson Olsen's rights. And one other kid, Jack Birch.
The 06D man who's with Langley in the BCHL.
Jack Birch is in the BCHL right now. Hasn't played a lot, so who knows what the situation is there. He's an Edmonton kid, I think. But Carson Olsen, Nugsy, for those who remember,
he was a superstar.
what was it, 3 years ago?
24.
He was a 16-year-old. He had like 30 points as a 16-year-old for Battlefords during their super team era. And he departed. He went to the BCHL for a year or so, 2 years. He played in the WHL. He's with the Kamloops Blazers right now, I believe. And if his rights are now in Saskatchewan again, that's fantastic. That's good news. If he ends up coming, depending on what goes on with Kamloops, because I know they're in a run right now, depending on what goes on, even if it's next year as a 20-year-old, holy cow, is that a pickup?
Yeah, and Hackman is a D1 commit, and Olsen's also a D1 commit.
Right.
UMass Lowell for Olsen, and Mankato, Minnesota State Mankato for
both very
Hackman,
respectable
so
schools.
Very cool.
So very interesting direction maybe being taken here by the Humboldt Broncos. We'll talk about that in a moment. And then the Warman Wolverines trade 20-year-old forward Kane Kennedy to the Neugebauer Titans for a PDF. And that was a guy that if we were going to have a trade bait board, he was near the top of it for me.
Sure.
I'm personally disappointed that he didn't stay within the league. I was hoping he would find a home somewhere else in the league if that happened. But he's in the MJ. He's going to have a great opportunity with Neugebauer. So it is what it is. So those are the moves. Another move that happened as well, Estevan traded Alex Sheck just last night to Swan Valley.
And Yorkton got Tyler Palin from Elmira and then
So Tyler Palin last
huge.
year, what was that, 27 points he had
they
as
got
a 19-year-old.
And Bartha.
So talking about the Parkland region, boys and girls, holy cow.
It's juicy.
We'll get to that in a minute. But let's get back on track. Let's get back on track to where we were, because now that we've talked about all the moves that we know have happened, we're still talking about Weyburn. We talked about their strengths. Is there a weakness that we need to talk about with the Weyburn Red Wings?
Yeah, I mean, again, Cody Mapes, is always looking to make his team better, but he's also, he's got such a great core group of kids. I'm sure they'll make one or two more, but I don't see anything crazy coming out of Weyburn, given how much they like what they have.
In fairness, like I said, we kind of talked about it. They already made two really nice acquisitions.
Well, getting Rocha, right, was...
Yeah, that was big. And Munroe was a nice fit for exactly what kind of they needed.
They could not really have gotten a better goalie in
unless,
a trade than
to me,
Rocha.
The moves that they've already done...
He's going to be good.
The moves they've already done, Munroe, Rocha, moving Patnaud out. I don't know what else is there. I think they're set up really nicely now for another run.
It's only a thing if something just falls in Cody's lap, which obviously what happened with DK, like Ethan DK last year, for example. But other than that,
if something wild happens, like I don't even know what to even say. If there's a 20-year-old that somehow pops up on the trade wire and Cody makes a text or a call and figures something out. But to me, I love the way that they're set up right now. I think they're going to be extremely difficult to beat in a playoff matchup with any team. And I love where they're at. So possible wish list items. I'm not even sure what to say at this point for Weyburn, because I think they've already got their wish list. They got Joey Rocha, and Will Munroe was added earlier. So I feel like they've made their moves, and if anything else happens, it's almost like a cherry on top at this point. The Nipawin Hawks, let's bring up their team graphic here. This is a team that I've been really loving the way that they've been playing all year long, and they've made a big move themselves already this year. But we'll talk about a couple, actually, if you think about one of the defensemen they've added. But they have a 20-11-1 record. They're 5-5 in the last 10 games, as we mentioned in the standings chat. 41 points, first place in the penalty kill department. This is a team that we anticipated to be very offensively gifted, and maybe, who knows about the defensive side of things, number one in the penalty kill department. So shout out there. Third place in goals against, very good. Like I said, very good defensively. They have third best goal differential, very good there. They need to maybe sharpen up the penalty minutes, but at the same time, they're first in penalty kills, so who cares? I shouldn't say that. But maybe if they want to, 23.5% power play is very respectable. That puts them in 7th place in the league, which is crazy. That's a pretty good percentage. Maybe that can increase, and maybe it's going to naturally because of the players that they've had. They've already made 3, I would call it, moves already this year, bringing in Braden Jockums, bringing in Brendan Olsen from Melville earlier this year, who feels like a great fit.
Unbelievable.
And Hudson Gaynor, the defenseman who they added, 2007-born defenseman, has been such a good fit there. Their goaltenders are among 2 of the best in the league. Gage Roberts specifically being their number 1 guy, who we talked about guys going, like, you can ride to a championship. Gage Roberts feels like that kind of guy in that tier. 923 save percentage this year, and Colton Scott, 921 save percentage. Like, these guys are outstanding. Top 10 for sure, both of them. It's a top 3 tandem, I'll say, for sure. Connor Watson has been so impressive. 17 goals this year. Mason Karkachuk, we talked to him on the show earlier this year. Such a great kid. Eric Hoynes has picked up his stride. Will Witter's been so good, two-way guy all year long. Ashton Tate is back, and his numbers are about to pop off, I would assume. Finley Radloff is just that leader that just is so important to have. Brendan Olsen, like I said, great fit, and they have so many other guys in this roster. So, Nugsy, let's talk about the Nipawin Hawks. I kind of mentioned a few things already. Sorry to steal your thunder there, but strengths. What are we talking about when we see Nipawin, talk about Nipawin? What are their strengths?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing they need at the trade deadline is health. Stay healthy. That's the biggest thing for them. Obviously, there was that bit of influenza kind of epidemic almost across the province, and they were hit really hard. So there's that. I mean, I think you talk about the depth up front. I don't know who in the league has better forward depth than the Nipawin Hawks. Probably nobody, to be honest. But I think the thing that they maybe could use is like a physical forward again. Like, obviously Olsen was a good fit. Maybe another one to get a lot of skill. Maybe a little bit more on the forecheck.
Sure.
And then kind of an opposite thing on the back end. A little bit more offense on the back end. Their leading defenseman point getter is the local boy, Ryder Wellington. The Wellington, is a pretty known family in Nipawin. Ryder has 9 points. That's the most among any Nipawin defenseman. And I think that's about 13th on their team in scoring. So maybe a few more points in the back end, and that'll help their power play, obviously. So if they can find that one D-man, and I know Tad Kozin and Dana Dirks have been looking for that, but we'll see if they can find it.
Well, and the interesting thing about them too, you mentioned Ryder Wellington, two power play points, Noah Heinrich 4 power play points, Brady Seabrook 1, Hudson Gaynor 3. So like you said, who's the power play quarterback? Because that's such an important aspect to a power play. And they have a solid power play, but could it take a huge step forward if they had like a guy? And who that guy is, no idea.
Tad is really high on Heinrich. And to be fair enough, but if that were to come across their table, I'm sure they wouldn't say no.
Right. So maybe that's we'll call it a wish list item.
Is as good of an ad as you can also possibly get.
And the timing of that was
league.
so huge. It just comes at a perfect time too, where they're turning a corner, and it's the second half of the season, and they got him in before the break, which is nice because you get him.
What did Nipawin need? Another star forward.
And he just happens to have 6 points in 6 games.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
So great pickup there. When I think of Nipawin, like you said, I think the biggest thing is if they can find somewhere either within the league or outside. I don't know. It's going to be hard to find one, I think, within the league just because of how tight the trade market is right now within the league, with teams not wanting to necessarily move guys within the league. But, let's just hypothetically, I'm just going to throw this out there, but if the Melfort Mustangs decide to tinker a little bit and they opened up in Austin Ashovy, for example, that might be a guy who fits really nicely in Nipawin. As an example, not saying that's happening, and I actually don't think it's going to, because I think Melfort's going to push through this thing. So we'll talk about that when we get to Melfort. But a guy like in that realm, I feel like would be a really, really nice fit and addition to Nipawin, because I feel like they have so much, like you said, they have such good balance, maybe a little bit more physicality, like you said up front. But that would be a really nice fit if it was hypothetically going to happen. But again, I doubt it. Probably not. But Nipawin, I love where they're at. Again, they're another team where they've made some moves already, and I think those moves have benefited them so well that they might be good where they're at. Sorry, if we've already put 2 teams as they're good where they're at. Sorry for the fans who are like, who are they trading? My bad. All right, team number 4, the Battlefords North Stars, a team that Nugsy and I have talked about numerous times as how impressed we are with the way that they're playing this game, and the pickups that they've been able to make throughout the year to kind of fill different spots have also been extremely crucial. Anthony Campbell leads the way. Josh Knidig has been so good this year. Gavin Granger, who is on this graphic, it was a little bit of a typo. Finley Klippenstein and Gavin Granger just had their position reversed. So sorry for everybody who's like, wait a minute, Gavin Granger's a forward now? That'd be cool, but no, he's not. He's a defenseman. Him and Lincoln Fisher have been so good. Both Saskatchewan boys, you love to see it. Finley Klippenstein leads the way with 17 goals. Kobe Sawyer, Caleb Dewar have been so good. This team is 18-8-2-2 this season with 40 points. Nugsy with a second-place penalty kill, a sixth-place power play, fourth in goals for, fifth in goals against, sixth in goal differential with a plus 13, and they're middle of the pack with penalty minutes. Caden Serpa has really turned a corner. I thought early on we weren't quite sure what we were getting with Caden Serpa. He's really settled in. 916 save percentage, a 322 goals against. Steele Bass is listed on here, but he is now going to spend the rest of the season with the Prince Albert Raiders. Word is that they have picked up a goalie. I don't think it's official yet, so I'm not sure exactly what we can say about that.
Nothing.
Right, nothing, because it hasn't been official, so we aren't sure. So something could happen in the next couple of days. So stay tuned for that. That's, I guess, going to be a team need. There you go. We checked one off the talking points. They need a backup goalie.
On to the next team. No, just
On to the next team. But Nugsy, the strengths of this team have been so fun to watch because I feel like they've developed over the course of the year. Would you say?
They've gotten better, and you don't. Yeah, I'm sure Connor Logan didn't know what he was getting in a bunch of these guys.
Yeah.
And we talked about it last time, talking about Finley Klippenstein, like a guy that didn't necessarily profile as a sure thing superstar in our league, who clearly worked the right ways in the offseason, who clearly has bought into what Connor Logan has been talking about and Owen Lamb has been talking about. And just big time kudos to all those guys, be it Granger, be it Lincoln Fisher, the leadership again, Knidig, just bringing guys along in the right way. And you think about the mentorship that guys like, Knidig and Campbell had from past years, Jackson Allen and company, Nikita Ivashenko to a degree. Mentorship matters. And these guys, the leaders in the core in Battlefords, were mentored by the right guys, and they've passed that on. So kudos.
And yes, this team has some very impactful 20-year-olds, but the best part, I think, for North Stars fans to think about,
sustainable.
A lot of their players are 19 or younger right now, so they're going to bring back a good core next year to build on whatever happens at the end of this year. And one of the additions that they've made earlier this year was Owen Nelson from the Melford Mustangs when they traded the rights to Drew Mushimansky, which I feel like he's been a really good fit. Like he's 6 points in 12 games with Battleford so far, and I think that's a lot in the last few games that he's played that's picked up. So I feel like that number is about to go up. I feel like he's such a good fit there. Carter Geisen, we spoke earlier about how good he's been lately. 12 goals this year, second on the team in goals. And we haven't even talked about their two leading scorers, Anthony Campbell and Josh Knidig. Like we talk when
I talked about Anthony Campbell.
You did. But I feel like the best part about
the royal we, eh?
Yeah, overall, mostly me. But the best part to me when you and I talk about Battlefords is it's how impressed we are with not Anthony Campbell and Josh Knidig. It's all the other guys.
Yeah.
We're like, man, Finley Klippenstein's been great. Yeah. Man, Kobe Sawyer's been playing really good lately. Man, Caleb Dewar, you see his numbers the other night? Like, it's those guys. Yeah. Drew Williamson, Adam Konowalchuk got a player of the week not that long ago. Yeah. So one thing that happened over the Christmas break for them, they lost Sebastian Miles. They picked up Coventry. Is that it? Yes, Alexander Coventry, the 6'7" defenseman. Yeah. So they replaced that hole already. But Nugsy, when you think about strengths, weaknesses, needs, what comes to mind when you think of Battlefords right now? Other than a backup goalie or a second goalie.
Yeah, honestly, it's similar to Weyburn. It's like if something falls in their lap.
Sure.
I don't know. I mean, Battlefords obviously is doing very well, and they clearly want to go on a run. Will they sell the farm to try to win the championship this year? I guess it's all possible, but I think Connor Logan is going to keep things patient there, and if there's a move to be made, then he will. But he's got to look Gavin Granger in the face and say Anthony Campbell in the face and say, I'm doing my best to make this into a championship team. But we'll see. I mean, I think maybe some more help in terms of right down the middle, like key guys to win a key face-off in a key situation.
Sure.
Obviously, Anthony Campbell is one, but maybe another one. You can never say no, but it's hard to know.
It's hard to know. Wish list, I would say to me is like, I think they have such a strong group this year. If you can add to it, but add an 06, like if you can find a really good available, which is hard to do, a really good 06 that's available, 19-year-old that can play this year, be impactful, and then come back. Forward or defense, I feel like they're pretty solid on both sides. So if you can find either one, that can help this year, but also go into next year with them.
I think it's a D-man, though.
Yeah.
If they're looking for something, it's a D-man, just because, Granger does play heavy minutes, Fisher does play heavy minutes. And they're good players after that. They're solid. But if you can find another, guy to be, PP2.
I like that. Yeah, if there's a guy out there, who knows, that's available, and they can pick him up. I think, like you said, the blue line's probably a bigger priority for them if they can find a guy like that. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. I just love the way the Battlefords has jumped up this standings and jumped up the power rankings over the last little while.
I think they're going to still be patient, though.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree with you. Let's move on to team number 5, the Estevan Bruins. This team as well, coming into the year, different type than when I talked about Weyburn in terms of expectations. Weyburn, I expected to still be very solid, just they lost so many goals. With Estevan, if I'm being fully honest and transparent with people, and I've said this before, so hopefully this isn't shocking anyone, I didn't expect them to make the playoffs coming into this year. And that's no disrespect to Drew Kosher. Just the way that last year went, the turnover of coaching and everything, the changes that were made, and then the offseason happened.
Yeah.
And they made those moves, and they brought in Rylan Williams. They brought in Noah Asmundson. They brought in Colton Getzlaff. They brought in Dylan Adams. They changed their entire team.
Yeah.
And shout out to Drew and everybody involved in the scouting staff with Estevan. But to their credit, they fully deserve to be where they're at right now this year. And I personally look at them as a team, if they can, they're going to be aggressive. I think they're going to be aggressive this year. Ewan Rennie is now the sole scoring leader in this league. He's been so impressive this year, and he's going to continue those numbers because he just doesn't slow down. But Rylan Williams, Cash Olsen has been so good. Obviously, if you look at some of those goal numbers, Nugsy, they don't all have 30 goals, just so you know. Those numbers are false. But the points numbers are right.
Those are their games played, I guess.
Those are the games played, I'm pretty sure. The lines got mixed up in the graphic design, but that's fine. We're gonna carry on. We're gonna power through. Either way, they have some really good players. They have a really balanced lineup. I love what they've done. They've added some blue liners over the last little while. That's the one thing about Estevan is they have made so many moves this year. That'd be the only thing to me where Drew Kosher says, I think I'm just going to go with what I got.
Well,
but I don't think that matters.
When I was in Camrose, Drew was on the phone nonstop from January 1st on. So.
We already talked to Drew since he got back, too.
He's trying to, obviously we'll just jump right into their needs, I guess.
Sure, jump right in.
Or I guess it's more wants, given that they have the lineup. I think that it's up to the players now, less about roster construction for Drew to be consistent on a night-to-night basis. Is that an easy thing to be? No, obviously it is not. But, obviously, again, I always look at who the leader is. Who are they following? Nobody works harder than Rory Elson.
Love that.
He's an outstanding captain in this league. They added Nathaniel Harvey, who's been outstanding. I don't know, if there's a fastest skater competition in the league, he'd be right up there. He can really fly.
Super impressive.
Obviously, you and Rennie, I've said it before. I'll say it again, best player in the league right now. So I would have loved to see him in the Viking Cup, but I guess we didn't need him. Obviously, it would have been nice to have him, but there you go. Obviously,
didn't need him.
And obviously, you look at the roster.
Sorry,
Noah Asmundson. In terms of, we talked about Klippenstein being a kid that we were like, is he going to be? What's he going to be in this league? Noah has been leaps and bounds more than anybody could have thought, including Drew Kosher. So
sure.
He was absolutely outstanding until he picked up a bit of an injury at the Viking Cup. Was Noah, and talk about a guy winning faceoffs and knows how to be in front of the net, knows where to go to score goals in the blue paint. So the bottom line is, I think this team, just sort of is looking for a finishing touch, maybe another veteran D-man. I know they got Matthew Ron, but he's relatively similar to Ethan Andrews. Very, not that they don't play defense, but they're offensively leaning defensemen. Sort of a veteran right shot D-man. They're pretty left shot heavy as well. They love Adams and Cam. And, Nathan Cam could easily be a Western Hockey League goaltender as well.
Yep.
It's all kind of worked out well in net for Estevan. So it's a matter for me of maybe if they're going to get something, if they're going to actually spend something serious, it's probably going to be a kind of an older right shot D-man. But other than that, obviously I love their forward core. I love the attitude in the room. They're not going to be any fun come playoff time.
Yeah, and like I said, they did make some moves. You mentioned Nathan Harvey. You mentioned a couple other guys who came in throughout the year. Jaron Ashby was another guy that they added. Lachlan Tedorenko was another guy that they've already added, who's I love his presence on that roster. He's got 5 points in 17 games, but I don't think it's all about the points for him. He's one of those pesty guys that you just don't want to see coming at you on a forecheck. But Jaron Ashby, you know, the way I look at it, I fully agree. I think if you can find a guy who can jump onto a top pair with Ethan Andrews, that's your target. Maybe a forward who can play in the top 9, but I think that's less of a need, more of a luxury.
Well, the issue with that is you don't want to be pushing guys out who deserve it, and they love when they call up Gunnar Moore, for example. He looked good.
3 points in 3 games.
Just call it up. You know, Chase Holt has taken big steps forward for them, and you don't want to be taking away roles from guys that you've kind of promised who deserve that role. So
it's a great point.
Drew knows he's smarter than me when it comes to hockey. Like, he knows that he's not going to try to upset too much of an apple cart. I think up front, I think it's more on the back end.
Yeah, I agree for sure. It's going to be interesting though, because of how aggressive Estevan has been. How aggressive are we going to see them be, and what's available for them to get done, I guess, is the biggest question.
Drew won't stop working, though, I tell you that much.
Absolutely. And like you said, he was on the phone all Viking Cup. So, all right, we'll move on to team number 6, and we're staying in the division. We're going to Yorkton. Yorkton has also played very well as of late. 17-11, 1-1 for 36 points on the year. That first line is maybe the best line in the league, with Gabriel Korshane, Jai Zawatsky, and William Leonard. Tommy Reese, maybe the best defenseman in the league. Vinny Junek has been very solid, returning to, as of last year, returning to Yorkton. Cash Lanigan, maybe one of the best rookies in the league. Evan Ald, solid player as well. When you look at their goaltenders, Nugsy, Callum Craig, when he came back this year as an 06, we talked about him being one of the better 06 goalies in the league. He's been solid all year, and better as of late as well. Alejandro Montoya has been respectable as that kind of secondary goalie for them. He's had some big wins over the course of the year. And you look at their team stats, they're right where they want to be in special teams. That's a great place to be. Third in both categories. Love that for them. 5th in goals for, 6th in goals against, so middle of the pack, plus 12 goal differential, and they're almost last place in terms of taking too many penalties. So don't do that.
It's been a Yorkton thing for a bit here.
It has. And, sometimes that's an okay way to play during the regular season. You want to be in guys' faces. You want to play on the line. You want to play on the edge. So it is what it is. Maybe that can get cleaned up a bit. When we look at strengths and weaknesses with Yorkton, this is where I think we're going to get into some really interesting stuff, because I think the rest of the way here, we have some teams that I feel like could be in the top tier. They just haven't found whatever it is. So when you think of Yorkton this year, what comes to mind?
Well, I just think, how Tommy Reese, I've talked about him ad nauseum. I'm sure nobody wants to hear me talk about Tommy again, because again, I could talk about Tommy.
His parents probably love it.
I'm sure, hopefully. People usually don't tell me if they're happy with me. They usually only tell me if they're angry at me. So I haven't heard anything from Tommy Reese. So probably they probably are fine with me. But seriously, it's not like the other D on Yorkton have been poor. It's just they do play Tommy a lot, and they rely on him, and he's been so good. It seems like it's probably hard for Emery to not keep him on the ice, and that's just the way it's gone. But I think Yorkton's already done their business, and I don't really know what else they can really do again, unless something really falls in their lap. You look at their decor now. When they play Melfort on tomorrow. It's a new decor almost. Like obviously you add Palin and Bartha. That's D-man 2, D-man 3. The rest of it's 4, 5, 6, and they're not they're not bad back there. So it's a situation where Mikhail Buds is gonna step up, and he's really done a nice job there. Brett Buckley, again, he steps up. They let go Hertz, they let go Laliberty, they let go Johnston, but they so it's a pretty new group already back there. And obviously Cormier continues to be what he does and take penalties, but he's a tough kid for sure, one of the tougher kids in our league. But no, I'm not just saying that it doesn't take penalties, but he's a tough kid, and they need that. So they got a lot of different pieces. Getting Tyler Palin back is huge, and Bartha to add a little bit more offense. Those two guys are going to bring offense. So if Yorkton's going to add anything, it's got to be up front. I understand that there was a little bit of a health scare with Alejandro Montoya. I heard he's okay though, and he'll be fine, and he's back actually with them and fine. So that's great news. So I don't even think they need a goalie because they really believe in Callum Craig. I said in our season preview show, like if there's any doubters of Callum Craig out there, it's not Emery Lawson.
No.
Like he believes in Callum Craig 1,000%. So if Yorkton's going to do anything, it's going to be up front to maybe take a little bit of pressure off that top line. But, those guys have actually done a pretty decent job up front. You think about Cash Lanigan especially, but, among others too. So, I think it's going to be a veteran guy up front, if anything.
I had a friend text me the other day during the Viking Cup, and they said, where do you think might be a fit for Graham Brown if the Laurent Ice Wolves decide to trade Graham Brown within the league? And I had a very hard time thinking about a place, and the team that kept coming to mind was Yorkton as a place where Graham would be a really nice complementary goalie to a Callum Craig. But Montoya's been just fine, and I feel like that's not a need for Yorkton. The more I thought about it, I kind of talked myself out of it. I don't know what the trade cost would be for Graham Brown, but you would have to think, for those asking us now, who's the top players available, I would put Graham Brown near the top of the list in terms of player talent that is available. But there's so many. Our league is so well set in goaltending right now, especially after Pat Patnode went to Melville. There's not a ton of teams that are like, we're desperate. There may be a spot or two where a small upgrade would take place, but I just don't see it very much. And the more I thought about it, the more Yorkton I was like, no, they're good. Callum Craig is the guy this year. He's going to be the guy next year. And that's got to be something that you got to take some confidence in. Now, what I will say is, coming into the year, unless you wanted to add to that. You want to add to that? I just saw you wanted to maybe say something.
I just have something to say about their forward core.
Okay. Coming into the year, I'll let you do that after this. It's perfect. I think our biggest concern was because they lost Tyler Palin and Bryce Dahl over the course of the offseason. I was like, I just don't know what their defensive group are going to be. I think we thought maybe that Laliberty and Johnston, they were going to lean on those guys. They only got 8 games apiece out of those guys. So when you don't have those pieces in your lineup most nights, that puts your team at a disadvantage, because those guys were going to be, or were supposed to be, 2 pretty important players, and they just weren't healthy, or whatever reason they didn't get on the ice as much. Now you add Palin back and Bartha, who I don't think we can understate how solid Gavin Bartha is as a defenseman. Assistant captain, 19-year-old. So people say this and that about Easton Adrian, and I'm not going to go there, but in terms of the type of on-ice player, nobody was doubting the talent of Easton Adrian. I think Gavin Bartha is going to be very, very similar. Like big but offensive. Right. Not the fastest guy, but smart, knows when to pick his spots. Anyway, sorry for great fit is what I'm hearing. So when you finally, now, I guess long story short, I'm coming all the way around to it. When you have those 2 pieces that you haven't been able to really rely on simply because of health or whatever, only 8 games apiece, and now you add 2 pieces, especially one that you had last year, and you add those 2 guys, like you said, it's an entirely different look, and it's going to allow this team to play, for Emery Lawson, probably the way that they've wanted to play all year. They just haven't necessarily been able to. I think look out for Yorkton in half number 2 of this season. I really like those 2 pickups, and who's to say they won't do something else? And like you said, the forward group maybe.
Yeah, I mean, second line center maybe, if I'm being super specific.
For wish list item.
Because if you look at the veterans outside of that top line, like Evan Auld, Tylen Henriksen, if you include Ryder McDonald in that, even though he's an old rookie, we'll say, like they're kind of middle of the lineup kind of guys. Obviously Ty Henriksen scored maybe the biggest goal of the tournament, not the golden goal, for the Viking Cup team, and he was awesome. But again, he's he'll admit that he's kind of a bottom 6 forward probably. So as kind of a second line center, a little bit of depth to play with Vinny Junek on sort of a secondary unit. Again, it's hard to find good centermen. Evan Auld wins every draw. His offense continues to get better. But if he's your third line center on Yorkton, then you're a better laughing. Team. So.
Right. I agree. I think a group or an addition, especially because of Palin and Bartha, if they can add a forward now, I love it. I love where they're sitting. I love how their team is constructed. And I think with the way that top line is, again, I'm going to say arguably the best line in the league. Got Korshane, Zawatsky, and Leonard. With Tommy Reese in the fold and Callum Craig being solid. That's a good combo. Now they got this 2 new defensemen. You pick up another forward. Holy cow, who knows?
Bartha can come back next year. He's in 06.
Exactly. So I love what Yorkton's been doing. I think they're on a upward trajectory, and they already were. So good for them. All right, moving on. Team number 7, the Kindersley Clippers. We talked about Yorkton on an upward trajectory. Kindersley might be on a downward trajectory, and the reason I say that is they're 3-7 in the last 10. They were in, was it second, as high as second place? Were they in first place earlier on in the year in October?
Yeah, around there.
So they were first or second for a while. They're now finding themselves in 7th. I'm not trying to say anything about the team, just pointing out a fact. That's where we're at.
Yell at Clark if you want.
Yell at me.
I'm tired of being yelled at.
The thing I will say about them is they have a lot of skill and talent balanced throughout this roster. I really love their roster. Early in the year, I said I thought they were going to be a top 3 or 4 team in this league. Rylan Wheeler, fantastic. Brock Evans, you can't ask for a better. It feels like he's like 24 years old. He's been around forever, but he's only 19. Van Egger, a 20-year-old. Ethan Sotner, a great local kid. Russ Demo, one of the best defensemen in the league. Jacob Dennis, solid. Bryson Aikens, great pickup. And Nugsy, they find themselves in the middle or lower in every single team stat right now. 5th in power play, so I'll give them credit there. They're in the top half in that one. Penalty kill, they're in 6th. Goals for 7th. Goals against 10th. Goal differential 9th. They're last in penalty minutes by a good margin. By I think it was like 80 penalty minutes or something. They're in last place. Goalies, awesome. Brett O'Halloran, goaltender of the year candidate last year. Might end up being one this year, depending on how the second half goes. Matthias Radke has been a great find for them. So I guess I'm a little confused when it comes to the Clippers.
Lots of people are.
Love their lineup. Love the way they play. They're tenacious. They have some grinders on that team that you don't want to see coming at you. They have some size. Cohen Loney comes to mind. So I'm confused, I guess, is the best way to start this one off. What's going on? What strengths, weaknesses, and build into needs, I guess, if you want to.
Yeah, like depth, they're gritty. You're absolutely right. I think, obviously losing Avery Johnson, we can't skirt around it.
No.
Like, how do you replace a guy who's in first place in scoring on your team by 10 points?
By a bunch.
And what is it? I'm bad at math. 7 goals or something in 10 points. Like, that's tough.
I'll bring it up
by
here,
far
I'll help you
that
out.
much. Your best forward, and Motley's not going to be the replacement like for like. He's a sort of a depth, gritty centerman. Heard great things about his character and determination and whatnot. But Van and Rusty were unreal at the Viking Cup, and I'm sure they're happy to get those guys back too. A little bit of a boost in confidence too for Rusty Demo for being the defenseman of the tournament at the Viking Cup. He was awesome, and maybe needs a new truck. So maybe in the trade center there, they can add maybe a new truck for Rusty Demo too, because I understand his truck broke down in Camrose too. Just a terrific kid, but there's lots of character there. There's pretty good skill. I think when they get Braden Vandenbilch back, I think that'll be huge. He was really flying, 11 points in 14 games. His health was a concern. Jackson Herchak, again, that poor kid can't seem to stay healthy either. And their great athletic therapist, Jaden Villafane, has a lot to do there in Kindersley, unfortunately, with that crew. So I think health has been the biggest problem for the Kindersley Clippers, but talent is not. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and I mean, we've talked about the Perlingers for years, it feels like. We love the way that they play the game. And this defensive group might be one of the better groups in the league. So good that they were able to trade Austin Ashovey out to bring in Bryson Aikens, who I think is going to be a big piece down the road here, down the line, I should say, and into next season. Like you said, though, man, losing Avery Johnson's big. And I don't think we can overlook now that we're at this point in the season. I think earlier in the season we had this conversation about the overtime and shootout losses that they were piling up. And we said, are they leaving these points on the table? Is that going to come back to bite them at the end? It was a conversation we had during a show. We said at the time, I think they're okay. I think we said something along the lines of not overly concerned because I think
they've got enough Junior A experience.
Right.
Even
they got
if
a
they're
ton
not
of
all
it.
20, they've got a lot of experience.
Yeah, and they're in all these games. Now if they can just find that extra little bit to get the wins in these games. But the problem, I think, is that they maybe took a step the other way, where they were then losing these games. And they weren't picking up wins. And now they're getting to a point where they're 3-7 in their last 10. And what is it? They've lost 3 in a row. So I mean, it's just it's confusing, and I said it earlier. In terms of like wish list items, like this team is very much in the mix. They're still not out of it. I guess the biggest wish list to me, and maybe agree or disagree, but I'm assuming you agree because you already kind of said it, but replacing an Avery Johnson, which is very hard to do, but that would, I assume, be at the top of the wish list.
Yeah. Scoring forward, I think a guy who's a pure power play quarterback type guy too on the back end. Obviously, Rusty Demo is better even than I thought he was.
Yeah,
and obviously
he'll probably
got
take
Jacob
that role.
Dennis. I'm sure he'll take that role. They just need to be healthy.
Yeah,
they need to
get healthy.
They need to get a goal scorer. They need to get healthy. I heard when we were in the Viking Cup that the first practice after Avery left was like the best practice that they had all year. So maybe look out for the Clippers. Like it's either sink or swim for them. Like this is it feels like it's a turning point, fork in the road moment for them. I know nobody's going to be working harder than Ryan Gibson to try to figure it out roster construction wise. But there's enough in that locker room, more in that locker room than they have showed. And I'm sure they know that.
Thankfully for them, their forward group largely comes back next year. Largely. There's a few really important players that don't. Will Christian comes to mind. Van Egger, you mentioned. Yeah. But largely, we're talking the Brock Evans, the Rylan Wheelers, the Bryson Aikens, that Ethan Sotner. Those guys are coming back next year. I could go on, but we cut for time. The problem with that is... And Brett O'Halloran, thankfully, can come back next year as an 06. And Matthias Radke. But the defensive group gets pretty blown up when you think of taking Russ Demo and Jacob Dennis out of the lineup next year.
Yeah.
Is Mason Egan in 05 too? No, he's in 06, so he'll be back. But like, you think about that, that's a big chunk. Is Jackson Herchak, depending on what his future holds, who knows, with his talent levels.
Yeah.
We asked this year, we weren't sure if he was coming back, depending on his options. So next year, who knows? But I feel like you said, this year, they have a great group, and I don't know if I'd want to play them in the playoffs. That's going to be a theme, I think, the rest of the way in this show, is a lot of these teams, I don't think we're going to want to see them in the playoffs.
Yeah.
They're going to be hard to play.
Well, I think another way to put that is... we're all in for a good treat.
Yeah,
that's the bottom line.
We're
fans, in for a real treat.
This home stretch and into the playoffs is going to be so fun. But I don't want to see this team in the playoffs. I'm at the moment a little worried. I just don't know what's going to happen. They're sliding, and I think I think they have the team to stop this slide and figure it out. But boy, it's going to be interesting depending on what some of these other teams do this weekend and then going forward, obviously. Let's move on to the Humboldt Broncos, Nugsy. Another bit of a confusing team, but we've starting to get some clarity with what's going on there potentially. And we'll look at the Oakley-McIlwain trade as the start of that. But let's look at their team as a whole. The second best power play, I don't think that's correct. 16% wouldn't be second best power play. I'm going to say that's wrong. But 16% power play, 84% penalty kill, 106 goals for, 87 goals against, plus 19 goal differential. Is this all the right numbers? Let me just double check all this. I don't mean to question no, yeah, you're right. No, yeah, they're right. No, we're good. Never mind. I shouldn't have questioned our good man, Kelly Lewick. But their power play is 8th. I'll just say that. Penalty kill is 4th. So those numbers are a little bit wrong on the right. The numbers, in terms of the numbers, are right. Their rankings are wrong. There we go. We figured it out. But Nugsy, this team is a team coming into the year. We said championship. We labeled them, I did, as contender. They came out of the gate hot. We thought we were right. We look so smart. And then no idea how things have gone lately. Just don't get it. They have a ton of talent there, including one of the leading scorers in the league, Jacob Streetsy. Connor Miller, we've loved him for years as a Saskatchewan kid. Jeter Cordy, loved him for years as a Saskatchewan kid. Oakley-McIlwain, we thought all the tools, great 20-year-old, one of the better guys in the league. We love Tice Penrod. We love Rylan Huey. Ryder Knutson, named captain. We're like, that's a great fit. Owen Chapman comes along. that's a great fit. Charlie Tritt, best goalie in the league. 940 save percentage.
Yeah.
12 wins. 3 shutouts. Okay. 214 goals against. Brady Holtvold comes in. Maybe the next best goalie in the league.
Yeah.
He was
the best goalie at the Viking Cup.
Yeah. The future best goalie in the league, potentially.
Against 23-year-olds.
So how are they,
I don't know,
on January 8th, hovering on the outside of a playoff spot is my biggest question for the Humboldt Broncos. And I think Braden Klamosko, any hair he has left, he's pulling out. And they're 3-6-1 in the last 10 games. And it's one of those, it's similar to Kindersley where it's like, man, what's going on? Because I feel like they had so much there at the beginning of the year, and maybe they still do have so much there, but now Oakley McIlwain's out the door, which to me signals a direction. If you're trading away your number one defenseman, your top scoring defenseman, a guy with size who's been around the league for a couple of years now, few years, maybe that's signaling a direction for the rest of this season and into next season. We haven't necessarily heard any confirmed things about anything else for sure going down, but to me, that's a signal. So when you think of Humboldt, maybe just start with the signal and what you think that means. But needs, strengths, wants, weaknesses. Where are we talking with Humboldt
I
here?
mean, the consistency of Jacob Streetsy, like, we have to give it credit.
Yeah.
Like, he's been so consistent. I think maybe the hope by Braden Klamosko and Carter Hansen was that some forwards especially would take steps forward offensively and help him out a little bit more. Like you talked about the gap between Johnson and the other Clippers. The gap between Streetsy and the other Broncos is even bigger. And that just hasn't worked out. And you know what? We're like, oh, Humboldt's, 8th or 9th in the league right now in point. They're 8th. So they're in a playoff spot, but guess where they are in goals for? Also 8th.
Yeah.
So, that's a lot to put on. They've given up the fewest goals in the league. Charlie has been unbelievable.
That's the part that drives me insane.
So
how is it possible they're the number one team in goals against?
And they're 4th in goal difference.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
nothing adds up.
I came to this league in 2017, and this Humboldt team is one of the most confusing teams
ever
to me.
since.
And you know what I did say at the end of last year and just going into this year, I liked the roster. I liked a lot of the kids. I liked Ryder Knutson as the captain. He had great inheritance from the Landon Stromies and the Cage Newans of the world in terms of terrific leaders. Maybe not, the most elite players on the team, but just good enough, and also the leadership sort of gene to be that type of guy. But for whatever reason, I watched that Humboldt team last year, and they just didn't play together well. They didn't sync well together. It didn't work. They were, they had these good parts that didn't seem to fit. These puzzle pieces. And again, the season's not over. They still have plenty of time. They're still in a playoff spot. They could go on a run and we could look silly and they could end up second. For sure. Who knows? Like, it's the type of year, I mean, that would be take a lot, but they're only 10 points out of second if you think about it that way, which is a lot to say, but there's enough pieces. There's a lot of experience. Rylan Huey made Canada West on merit. He was unbelievable in Martinsville. I'm a huge Tice Penrod fan.
Yeah.
You go down the list, there's a lot of guys, but are they guys that score the big goal in the big moment? Unfortunately, I think that's kind of been a problem for them. So, to sum all that up, I don't know. It's befuddling, and I'm sure they're just as befuddled.
Because, wish list items, when we're talking, that's because obviously we're saying that about every team. It's like, okay, well, what do you want at this point this year?
What do you want from the season? Like, we don't know what they want, and they've played the fewest games in the league too. So
so they have games in hand. So it's like, are you with Oakley McIlwain out the door? That's, I think, the big key here. With Oakley McIlwain in Lloydminster now, you pick up.
They got good return though.
You got a good return, and again, Carson Olsen's rights coming back to Humboldt. That's fantastic.
He's a Warman boy, so he's not from far away.
Not even far away.
Yeah.
Jack Birch, by all accounts, seems like a nice player. They got his rights. He's not coming yet necessarily, but they got his rights, so who knows? And is it Morgan Hackman?
Morgan Hackman, yeah.
Morgan Hackman, by all accounts.
6'3", 216-pound D1 commit. Thank you very much.
So, that's a good player coming back. So, okay. So now let's... I don't know how to decipher that.
Yeah.
Is that just like is it a shuffling of the chairs on the deck? Is that a move for... Is Morgan Hackman in 06? Do you know that?
I think he's in 07.
He's in 07.
Yeah.
I mean, let's double check that. We'll fact check that because that'll kind of come in.
Yeah, he's in 07.
He's in 07.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a futures move. That's a future
Minnesota
move.
State, Mankato. Well, my understanding is Morgan is the one that they know is coming. It's the other two that they don't know.
Yes, it's the other two that they have the rights to, but we don't know what's going to happen for sure. If, let's say they get Carson Olsen somehow this year.
That'd be awesome.
As a 19-year-old and then into next year. That's, to me, if you get Hackman and Olsen, that's an improvement.
That's two D1 commits.
That's an improvement. No offense to Oakley McElwain. I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying you get two good. That's an improvement.
It makes sense for the organization.
If you get Jack Birch.
But my point is, I don't think. I mean, moving Oakley is big, and he was a great piece.
Yeah.
He's going home. He's going to be near his family.
Great for him.
You understand
honestly.
it on a lot of levels.
Yeah.
I don't think it signals that the Broncos are punting on the season.
Okay.
They still have too many guys, and the season's not over. They're still in a playoff spot.
Right.
They still have Charlie. They still have Holtvoet, who, as we said, was the best goalie at the Viking Cup.
Right.
Like, I think Brady, if the situation, be it whatever it was, is ready right now to be the number one goalie in an SJHL team too. So they have a real 1A situation in Humboldt.
Yeah, in fairness, that's a great way to put it. I mean, it's like
so. There's still a lot to like.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's just
there is a lot to like.
I think we'll have to see it in the next couple days to make a more clear understanding of what's going on there.
Right. We're going to have to see. Because, like, I could see them, if they stay with the group they have currently and they add, if there's something out there to add, a scoring forward, like you said, who can secondary scoring or top six guy. I could see them going on a huge run. Like, that's where we're at. That's why Humboldt's they're more confusing than Kindersley.
Well, I said since 2017, I feel like they're the most confusing team I've seen.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's move on from Humboldt to the Melville Millionaires. This team has already also made some moves. Really liking some of the things that they've been able to kind of add to this group. They're 14-3-2-2 on the season. For 32 points, but they are 6-3-1 in their last 10 games, so they're playing the right way lately. They've lost their last 2 games, but let's not talk about that. Keel Margolis, maybe one of the best 06s in the entire SJHL. Yeah. Boston Harkness, I'm going to go ahead and say, I was going to say best defenseman in the league, but he's right up there, at least top 3 conversation. So however you want to take that. Rylan Oatman, very impressive. Matthew Edwards, love his tenacity. You love that player on your team at this time of year and going into the playoffs. Preston Bearwald, he's a great young player. Wesley Olson, he has some talent. Grady Carmichael. Everyone else on this list is 6'5", pretty much. Pretty much. Everyone below Grady Carmichael, including him.
They got Eben Yu, who wins every face-off.
Yeah, he's not 6'5".
They got Wesley Golden back from injury. He is 6'5".
Yeah, he is. That's a huge addition
and they got
as well.
Zane Normand. And if you think about a guy that's a Doug Johnson type player,
man,
that was maybe available.
Yeah,
like
perfect.
Zane is the guy. I think he's going to take a big step here.
Yeah.
Playing where he doesn't have to be the leader.
Yeah.
Boston's already there. Kale's already there. He doesn't have to do more than he's built for.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing when you're looking at this team, you look on the right side of this graphic, a lot of bottom 5 for stat categories. 10th power play, 11th penalty kill, goals for 9th, goals against 7th. And honestly, I think that number will go up a little bit as they'll get higher in the rankings as the season goes along with the way they're building their team.
You think about a lot of their year was without MSD.
Yeah.
And now they have MSD.
It's really funny. We're and I'll get to this in a second. Actually, I'll come back to MSD. Okay. Penalty minutes. They're one of the better disciplined teams in the league. And for a Doug Johnson team that plays so hard to play against, and they grind and they're physical. That's a great thing to have.
Yeah.
I
think the Zane Norman deal is a sign that Doug is trying to get his guys to be more Doug Johnson type players. But your point is valid.
Fair. And I think for Melville fans, if you want to come back into the studio, for Melville fans, they look at Zane Normand and they think, 6 points in 21 games. That doesn't jump off the page. But let's flip the page to last year. Let's flip the calendar. He had 20 points in 28 games last year. He was hurt quite a bit. 20 points in 28 games is solid.
Yeah.
As a 19-year-old, as an 18-year-old, he had 15 points in 48 games in L'Orange. So that's, again, as an 18-year-old, that's nothing to sneeze at. You're thinking about a guy, third-line guy, 15 points, depth player, not bad.
Yeah.
And the growth and development, of course. Now he's a captain. Never say no to adding a captain to your team. Doesn't matter who it is. If he's a captain, you add him. That's great. I think this is a great fit for Melville. I think he's going to slot right in really nicely into that lineup. I don't know who he's going to play with. We'll see tonight, because they play tonight. We'll see what their lineup looks like when we get it against Kindersley. That's going to be an interesting game. Yeah. I love the Zane Norman edition. The MSD. Yeah. Let's talk about their goaltending, because they pick up Preston Patnod. Yeah. Nice pickup. Going to be a really solid backup, I'll call it, because what MSD has done. But the problem is that for me, it's like, man, we've talked so highly about Matthew Spencer-Dahl. He's played 5 games. So it's like, there's a great sample. We love the sample. But I really like the Preston Patnod pickup because I think that gives them a really solid tandem.
Well, so we should say that they did acquire Massimo Urbani.
Yeah, for those who might remember that name.
Who's playing Junior B in BC and had unbelievable numbers out there.
Crazy numbers.
And we knew, and Mike Reagan definitely knew, that Massimo was a terrific goalie. Yeah. He had him in Flin Flon a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. I knew his big brother actually in the OJHL, and unfortunately, pardon me, he picked up an injury, sort of upon arrival in Melville. So they did need a goalie. Now, that being said, I've talked about Doug and Cody and their relationship. They have a great relationship, even though their teams are big time rivals in the Bungie. Doug and Cody are good friends. So, it was a situation where Doug needed a goalie that's been proven to a degree in our league, and then not a 20-year-old as well. So talk about, whether, Graham Brown would have been a fit. Of course he would have been a fit. But do you want 205s? Probably not.
So, it's not fair to either guy.
Yeah. So Patnod's an 06. He can come back and be Melville's number 1 again next year. Yeah. Fits perfectly. Knows the area well. Obviously played AAA in Yorkton. So so he knows the area. And then he's an 06. He's proven. And just spell Matt Spencer-Dahl, and Doug doesn't have to feel any kind of thing about whichever goalie he plays. Yeah. So it makes a ton of sense.
Got to feel pretty comfortable now. And for Doug Johnson, I'm going to jump into the mind of Doug Johnson here for a minute. That's got to feel good to be comfortable with your goaltending situation after all the stuff that's gone on there in the last little bit.
It's taken off.
Oh my gosh. So I'm praying. Yeah. I'm praying so hard. I'm not even a religious man for Doug Johnson that this is his goalie and it's a good goalie tandem and it's solid and they're good to go. And I think they are. It's a great combo now. I think they're good to go. So when we think of Melville now, they've made the Zane Norman move. They picked up Preston Patnod. Is there anything else that we could maybe see going down with them? Because here's what I think when I look at Melville. I think all year we've talked about how we thought they were a playoff team. They're right now not in a playoff spot. Yeah. They've been winning games lately. They've been playing the right way lately. I think they've been playing the right way most of the year. Really.
Well, 2 very good teams are going to miss the playoffs.
Yeah, 2 very good teams. Sorry. Exactly. But I think Melville has a good chance right now to jump a couple teams in the near future. So in order for that to happen, what do you think Melville needs to maybe pick up in order to make that happen?
I think first of all,
if they have the
numbers of D-men, I don't know how many healthy D-men that they have. So I'm sure Doug is just looking for bodies on the back end. And if it's a good player to kind of spell, Harkness and Olsen a little bit, Golden, pardon me, a little bit. Yeah. Then that would be good. Obviously he likes Hicks, he likes Craig, and he likes Nadeau. But these guys can't seem to stay in the lineup, unfortunately. Yeah. And up front they're pretty veteran. I think another guy who can score now that you added Norman, because you think about Yibin you think about Bearwald. You think about Normand, you've got a lot of centermen. Wesley Olsen can play center. You have a lot of centermen that aren't maybe the big minute centerman you want right now. Mm-hmm. Late in the game when you need a goal, you're down at goal 6-on-5 or whatever. Maybe Zane Normand will explode and be that, and they hope that. But if you can have a guy that can play wing and center and score a few goals, I think, again, I'm asking for the moon here, but I think that's would be first on Doug's list. For sure. A D-man of any kind probably, and a forward with some skill.
Yeah. I think of some of the moves that they've made throughout the year, picking up Jack Drake in the Brendan Olsen trade.
Yeah.
You know, his numbers haven't shown that he's really found his groove there yet, but I think he still can.
Yeah.
I think he fits the way the team plays
He's young
nicely.
and
He's
big.
young and big. What is he? 6? Yeah,
He's
he's
106, but he's
so
big.
6'2", 170 pounds. I feel like he fits what they are.
Yeah.
Pretty good. I think if he can get going a little bit, that'd be a huge help. Nathan Taylor came over a little while ago. He's played 14 games.
They got Hudson Binder there who's really played well, since coming over from Weyburn.
Yeah,
So.
Devin Winder, a 6'4" kid, 2006 born, the 19, 7 goals this year. So they have some guys internally too, Nugsy, that I think maybe just need to
maybe
get
a better
their groove,
second half than
find their
first
groove.
half. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think a big blow was Jackson Lee leaving the team a little while ago.
Yeah.
14 points in 26 games and decided to stay home, however long ago that was. So that was a big blow. But I think, again, as I say, year after year after year, opportunity opens up. Who's going to step up and take it? And I think they have some internal
And
options.
Doug has awesome connections around the hockey world, too. So
tons.
I wouldn't be surprised if Melville
He
makes
might
some
be
move.
one of the most connected guys in our league.
Probably. So Doug will make a move and we'll be like, "Pooh."
Yeah, exactly.
That's what's going to happen.
Or it'll be like an under-the-radar move that, like, in 2 months, we're like, whoa, that was a good pickup.
Yeah.
I love the way that they have. I think they're set up really nicely in a point where they can kind of pick and choose with what's available, who to grab for the right price, and be solid. And also solid next year.
And
I think they have a lot of pieces for next year.
The last thing that I'll say about Melville before we move on to is, like, I know we've talked about Boston Harkness and how good he is all year. But then again, it was another level of admiration for me from the Viking Cup because the points weren't flying in for him. He hit the post in a game. He was involved at times offensively, but he was so solid, so steady. He let Ethan Andrews be Ethan Andrews, and there wasn't a single iota of attitude or I'm not on the power play or I'm not in this role.
Well, there were 6 power play quarterbacks on that team, so
yeah,
I think they had the right attitude from the sounds of it.
But still, like he is the man in terms of the D-man in our league. But he didn't have a second. Again, if you know the kid, it's not a big surprise that he's got a terrific attitude, just a leader in every way. A little bit of a quieter kid, but I was so impressed.
But when I think of this team now, again, what I was kind of just saying, they kind of have the ability to now pick and choose with what's available. I think what fits them best and makes them better because they're only losing when you think about going into next year. Harkness, obviously huge. I'm not going to say they're only losing Harkness. That's a huge loss. Edwards and MSD and Golden. I think that's their own, and Norman now that they picked Normand up.
Yeah.
So they have a lot of guys who are eligible to come back with some talent for next year.
So Doug can be patient.
Yeah, patient and find the right fit. I love where they're at. I think they're at a really good place to strike if they want to, or be patient and still be okay, is what I'm trying to say. Let's move on. This one is this is an interesting one. I've been kind of waiting all show to talk about this team, the Melfort Mustangs. Obviously, back-to-back champions. A lot of these players on this team won, both of them. Some of them won last year. They're 11-16, 1-2. They have 25 points. They've been in 10th place now for a month and a half, 2 months or so. Zayden Saddlemeyer, arguably best player at the Viking Cup. Bo Eisner, one of the best defensemen in the league. Danton Cox, solid. Tristan Ziola made Team Canada West. Austin Oshovi, picked him up recently. He's a good player, great player. Just trying to figure out what's going to happen now with this team. Austin Shepard, wouldn't want too many other guys more than him on my team if I was building a roster. Caleb Binner, he's my cousin, so I'm biased. But I love that guy.
I knew that was where you were going.
I love that guy.
Yeah.
He's got 10 points. He's chipping in this year. One of the best goalie tandems, talent-wise, I think, in this league with Kaysen Kabelka and Madden Malaka. Numbers-wise, well, Kabelka's numbers are really good. But as a tandem overall, numbers-wise, hasn't been what we maybe thought. If you look on the right side, the best part about them is they don't go to the penalty box very often. Their goals against, I guess, too, with 4th place. They don't give up many goals. But that goals for number is not right. Just Kelly, their goals for 78, it should say. It should say 78.
Second fewest in the league.
They're in 11th. Penalty power play, bottom quadrant, penalty kill, bottom half. So Nugsy, Melfort is in a tough spot. We've known about this now for a little while, but I don't think they're necessarily selling.
No.
From what you gathered at the Viking Cup, because there was lots of representatives from Melfort there. Obviously, you can't give out specifics. I don't think you actually got a ton of specifics, but you got vibes. We'll say you got vibes.
Yeah.
What was the vibe that you've received over the last week and a half, 2 weeks?
Yeah. The vibe is that if there's a guy that they can move out and move in that they think will be better for the group as a whole, for the locker room, for the culture, whatever, they'll do it. I didn't feel, and I could be totally wrong, I didn't feel like they were selling, and a lot of people have talked about it. We've said it many times, that if they get into the playoffs, they're going to be no fun to play against, no matter if you're the first, second seed, doesn't matter.
No.
It doesn't, talking to Zayden Saddlemeyer, he loves Melfort, he loves Blevins.
For good reason.
Yeah, he loves being there. He obviously these guys have rings, so the bond is there for life. You go down the list. It's just, I think they tried to fit some round pegs into square holes, just in terms of, okay,
go the other way around, because you could probably put a circle into a square.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Whatever. I'm bad with the analogy.
Have you seen that TikTok video of like the girl
guys
putting
that
all
are, just because they're 20 doesn't mean they fit in kind of an offensive role or the guy to look for. And then they brought in some guys. They brought in Peskett. They brought in Mushermansky. And they've taken some time to adjust to the SJ, to Melfort, to Trevor Blevins' system, to whatever it is. It just hasn't ever worked all together at the same time, at least offensively.
Yeah.
And they're getting
especially
chances.
Offensively.
They're getting the chances. Bo Eisner has 22 points in 28 games as a D-man. That is great. Both him and Zayden were awesome at the Viking Cup. Zayden, as you mentioned, was maybe the best player at the tournament, and he led the SJHL team in scoring. He was amazing. Such a good kid too. So it was an eye opener to me to see how good those guys were again. It's curious to see where. But I actually see Melfort as maybe in a better place even than Humboldt, even though they're behind Humboldt. I don't know if that's a bold thing to say. But
do we have like a stamp?
There you go. It's a big.
I think our stamp says our stamp from the other show that we had last year is what's the word? Object. That's not the right
Objection.
stamp. We don't want that stamp.
Yeah, but I'm sure it's been.
Hot take.
It's been frustrating in Melfort. I'm sure Trevor Blevins is frustrated, but they still got a great group, a great locker room, a great bunch of players, and if they just could get on a little bit of a roll, they're not so far off that they can't change the outlook real fast.
For sure. I think the part about Melfort as media members, I'll talk. I'm not going to talk about from your perspective, but just from my perspective. When I get asked who's available by some fans or whatever conversation comes up here at work or wherever, the easy thing to do with Melfort right now is be like, man, Zayden Saddlemeyer would be good on all these other teams.
Everybody.
Bo Eisner would be good on all these other teams.
There's not a team in the league that wouldn't take those guys.
No. Danton Cox would be such a nice fit on a lot of teams. Will Munroe already left. Bryson Aiken's already left. So, they traded guys that, to me, were offensively skill-setted away. And when they traded Bryson Aikens, my first inkling was, well, maybe the addition of Austin Ashovey in that trade with Kip Kindersley will bring everybody else up because there'll be some offensive force from the blue line. Yeah. And I think that's still true. But moving out two forwards when they're already struggling for goals and two of their more offensively skill-setted guys was curious. But there's a lot of things Melfort's done this year where I've kind of liked it. I like the addition of Austin Ashovey. I like the addition of the skill set of Logan Peskett. Hasn't really worked out. It's not terrible, though. Yeah. I love the skill set of Drew Mushermansky. Yeah. There's a lot of things that they've done this year where I'm like, I love Reese Nyland as a player. He's a solid player. Yeah. I like that pickup. There's a lot of things that they've done this year where I'm like, that's good. Yeah. But it's not enough. And it just hasn't, like you said, none of it's gone right at the right time, same time. So it's just okay. Yeah. But they're a team where it's okay, so here's the question, Nugsy. Yeah. What if it does all start going right at the same time?
Well, and that's what I'm saying. And I think Trevor Blevins and his staff believed that the group that they had were at a certain level
Yep.
so far this year. And it always is when you're building a roster, it always is like your best guess that this is where you are.
Sure.
And I'm sure they'd be the first to admit they were not accurate 100% where they're at.
But they've also won 2 championships in a row.
But they know.
know?
I mean, I'm saying they're qualified. Yeah. They're very qualified.
Yeah.
But they
like I'm saying,
aren't where they thought they were going to be. So, but they could get there.
What I meant by that, I didn't mean like they're not qualified. They've won 2 championships in a row. Eventually, the gas runs out in that championship run tank. But it doesn't necessarily have to mean that you punt on a season. And that's where I think you're saying is they thought they could make another push or be competitive again. And it just hasn't quite all pieced together the way they thought it might. But it very much
still a runway to get into the playoffs.
Yeah.
There's still a runway to be a big problem in the playoffs.
And I think, I don't know how much we want to talk about this as a thing, but one thing that all season has been a big missing piece, Ashton Hutchinson not being around. He was in 2005. Thought he was going to come back and be a big piece this year when we did our preseason shows. Hasn't been around. And that's when you don't have a player like that around who is probably going to be their leading scorer. Let's be honest. It's a hole that you have to find somebody to fill. And it's not easy to just replace a really solid guy from the season previous who's going to be a 20-year-old. It's not easy. So they've done their best. I think they still have the pieces, like you said, that as soon as this switch turns on for some of these guys. Drew Mushimansky, for example, 4 points in 11 games since coming to Melfort. This guy is a point per game kind of player. When it clicks, it's going to be great. It just, hasn't quite yet, and it doesn't mean that it's not going to. When people say, who's on your trade bait list, and everyone wants Melfort to sell because it would be interesting, I don't feel like they are. And from what Nugsy's gathering and observing, it doesn't sound like maybe they are.
I could be wrong, but
could be wrong. So, and everything. If they play Yorkton tomorrow night, they lose to Yorkton. Who knows? Maybe the mindset changes. Maybe by Saturday they decide, never mind. We're going to flip the switch. We're going to flip the calendar on this one, and we'll retool and look at next year. But as of right now, I don't get the sense that that's the case. So we'll leave it at that for Melfort. We'll move on to Warman. Of course, an interesting season in Warman. Really cool inaugural season. They have a great game day experience. I love the way that the franchise has kind of started things off there, and they have some great pieces. Cam Sarna leads the way. Fierson Lindorf, maybe one of the best future defensemen in this league. Vinny Palmerine, maybe one of the best current 20-year-olds in this league. Kane Kennedy is out the door. We learned that. We know that for sure. He's in Neepawa now of the Manitoba Junior League. Riley Rich Holden, solid player. Ethan Dundas, nice young player. Oliver Nottingham, nice young player. They have 2 goalies that are nice young players as well. Tay Timmerman, not with the team at the moment. Is he with the Blades again, or is he just hurt?
He's just hurt.
He's just hurt. Because I saw him.
He got a new helmet.
So I was going to say, I saw him on Instagram posted that he got a Blades helmet, but so I don't know what that means. He'll be up and down though. We knew that. And Griffin Wright has he has the tools to be a solid goalie. Yeah. So a lot of positives. It's a young team though. We know that. 9-22 and 9-22-0-2. They just got younger with Kane leaving.
And Hudson Kerr too.
Right.
Potentially.
We don't know what's going on with Hudson Kerr, another 20-year-old there. 20 points in the year. Bottom 2 or 3 in most team categories at the moment, but they're disciplined. They're top 5 in penalty minutes, so that's good. But Nugsy, what are we trying to say when it comes to Warman? Because they've already made one move, who we anticipated maybe Kane Kennedy would be gone. Hudson Kerr, we're not sure exactly what's going on there, but sounds like something. He's a 20-year-old who has been hurt a good portion of the year, but really good talent level if he can get on the ice and find the right team. They picked up Corbin Allman earlier this year. Really love that piece. I feel like Mason Moreland is a great young player, solid young player. Yeah. They have a lot of youth. We know this. So what do you think their strategy over the next couple of days is going to be? Will we see much more exodus, or do we think they're kind of going to stick with what they've got?
Yeah, I mean, I think it could happen. I think, I'm sure Brett Pilkington is as popular a guy as anybody, but, my understanding is that, they're just looking to the future. You hope that, and there's another team coming up that we're going to talk about, and it's going to say the exact same thing, that that these guys buy into the project and be patient and come together. And you look how good the Nipawin Hawks are, and everybody says them as the model, kind of. Bring them together and stay together and build something special together. So hopefully people buy into projects and obviously what better place, Brianna has done an awesome job with the game day experience.
Great ownership
The
there.
owner's been awesome.
Yeah.
Their community's been awesome. They've been coming out in droves. So just, it's a first year. We knew there would be growing pains.
On
young
the ice.
team on the ice.
Yeah.
But just look at their top couple guys. Cam Sarna, Pearson Lindorf, they're both 07s.
Which is a great sign.
It's a great sign.
You want that if you're a team like
Dundas
this.
is an 08.
Yeah.
Nottingham is an 07. Bergen's an 07. Bennett Libel's an 07. Like, you go down, like, this team's going to be even younger soon, you'd think. And so there might be some bumps and bruises the rest of the way. But I just encourage those guys and their parents, if they're listening to this, to just stick with Brett Pilkington, stick with the program, because it could be really, really special if you have a room full of kids that want to be there.
Yeah.
And kids, my understanding is want to be in Mormon. So that's
I
awesome.
don't know who wouldn't want to be. Obviously, I'm in my 30s and I'm not an 18-year-old player.
Yeah.
But if I'm
Saskatoon's
going
down
around
the
the
road.
league, I would love to be in Warman as a place to be for the next couple seasons. And it sounds like a great program. I've been to a game there, SJHL game. I've been to other games there over the years.
Yeah.
The facility's fantastic. So we're talking it up. But I think, to your point, I think what their approach, I think, for the next couple days is, they don't have a ton of pieces that you would want to see leave. I think they want to keep with what they got for the most part, I would assume.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see if they do anything else. The writings on the writings on the wall is not what I wanted to say. The elephant in the room. Thank you, myself. Vinny Palmerine is one of the best 20-year-olds in this league, and he just happens to be a right shot defenseman, which I think 11 teams in the league would want, 11 other teams.
Yep.
But my understanding is just that they're happy with him there. He's happy being there. I don't think there's a huge push to move him out the door.
No.
And they already have a very young team. They barely have any 20-year-olds now that Kennedy's gone. That's the other thing that people don't always think about. Fans want to see good players go to teams that they cheer for.
Yeah.
The one thing that's tough is when you're on a team like this, and I worked in Estevan in 2014-15, so I was with a team like this where it was very young, not a full group of 20-year-olds, only a few 20-year-olds.
Yeah.
Those 20-year-olds are so instrumental to the growth of the other players.
Yeah.
And if you have a player like Vinny on your team, you want that guy to be an
Show the
example.
way, yeah.
You want that guy to teach the group for next year how to play and how to perform and how to be a leader. So I don't think there's a huge push to move a guy like that out the door. I would want to keep him if I was in their shoes.
You want Pearson Lindorf to keep developing as he is.
So I think he's
Bennett
a great
Libel.
piece to hold on to, frankly.
Mike Reagan really likes Bennett Libel. He signed him, and he really believes that he's going to be a really good player very soon, too. So
They've picked up a couple pieces over the year. I like where their future is going.
Yeah.
They just have to keep it together and stick to it. So there's Warman.
Just like with Melville, though, they need a body on the back end. I believe they only have 6 healthy D-men or 6.
So they might want to pick
on
somebody
the
up.
roster, so they just think they need a body.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Let's move on now to the Laurent Ice Wolves, who have also made at least a couple moves, actually.
Yeah.
The Laurent Ice Wolves, love with some of the young players that they have on the team. We've talked to Killer Kaminsky, the head coach and GM, twice or 3 times now this season. And I think this is where the writing is on the wall for this team. They know what they are. They're young. They need to grow. They need to learn. They need to, I think, learn by fire a little bit too. And look what happened in Flin Flon last night. There's no better example than that. They need to, go through some lumps.
They need to stop playing Flin Flon.
Well, they need to most teams need to stop playing Flin Flon. But yeah, we know what they are. They've already moved out Zane Norman, their captain. So now it's even more firm on that direction. They have players, though. Like, if we go down the list, Graydon Perosny, Connor Holmson, Evan Cook, William Knox, Waylon Gardapi, even Owen Turner, Matthias Dezen. They have players that I'd be super happy with coming back into next season, going forward with. Super happy with a lot of that group. Graham Brown is obviously a workhorse in this league. We know that. He's a great player, great attitude, Viking Cup champion. I think, similar to Vinny Palmerine, I think he's a guy maybe they end up keeping and holding on to and letting him be that example for this young group.
Good for Riley Zezel.
Yeah, it is. It is, honestly. I know Riley Zezel might not get as much playing time, but it's good for him to be a partner of the guy like that. Good growth partner. When we think of guys on this roster, again, it's kind of a similar vein where it's like, I don't think there's much that they're going to want to move out. I know they're in last place and things numbers-wise aren't looking great standings-wise, but I think this is a group that you probably want to stick with for the most part. And like to sell, I don't know. They have a couple 20-year-olds left. David Vitt being one of them. Maybe there's an opportunity for him somewhere. I'm not sure, but I think they've brought in a couple younger players already this season. They've shown very clearly what their direction is, and that's perfectly fine. And I think the group, if they can keep it together, I love what Killer said on the SJHL Spotlight that we had him on. Was that before the Christmas break? Where he said, we look at what Nipawin did last year, and that's our model. He straight up said it. He said, we want to be what Nipawin was last year and take that into next year. So that's where I'm like, Larange, I love where their youth group is at. Let's move that youth group into next year and make it a big focus. I don't think trading out many other guys is going to be on the table. I don't know if they're necessarily going to bring in any guys unless a young player is out there that's available. They could see them adding to the group. But
I mean, I think the one guy that might move on is Kulikov, the Ukrainian.
Dmitry Kulikov.
Nikita Kulikov.
Sorry, Dmitry Kulikov was the NHL player, I think. Yeah.
Nikita Kulikov. If they had Dmitry Kulikov, they probably would trade him too. Get a big haul. No, Nikita Kulikov, probably veteran guy, was at the World Juniors there for Ukraine, the Division 1. He's got a big shot, kind of a useful player in the right situation. So he's a guy that maybe you could see moving, but again, just same with Warman. Like you hope, kind of with the leadership of Porozny and the leadership of Turner, to some degree Dezen and Christensen, maybe Gardapi sticks around and Cook sticks around and Knox sticks around and Holmesen sticks around. These are good, talented young players.
Absolutely.
Again, build something together. They've used that Nipawin model. They've said it themselves. Stick together. I know the enthusiasm for this team, if they were to be competitive in the years to come, would be awesome in Larange and that new beautiful rink that they have up there.
It's a great situation up there right now.
So just stick with it, and the grass isn't always greener. On the other side, whatever your agent says or whatever, just trust the Killer, trust the process, and you guys could have something really special because there's a lot of players we could list. On this team that are very good players, just very raw. Same with Warman.
So
just stick together.
Just for fun, Dmitry Kulikov has made $42 million in his NHL career, so I don't think he's going to come back and play junior anytime soon.
Not too soon.
No. But, Nugsy, I think that kind of wraps it up for our 12-team breakdown.
There you go. Hope you enjoyed it.
I've just received a text. I'm not going to say what it is. I'm going to tease everybody that another move might be going down. But I'm not going to tell you what it is.
Whoa, that's nice.
It might not even be real. I might just be completely lying. But I've received a text, and it's interesting. I'll tell Nugsy about it after we're done recording the show. It's interesting. It is actually very interesting. Okay, let's look ahead at what's going on this weekend, guys and girls, because there is some big games coming up, and it starts tonight. The Weyburn Red Wings are in Battlefords for a battle of two of the top 4 teams in the league. They play each other back-to-back. Guess what, Nugsy? Math-wise, Battlefords, 4 points down on Weyburn. So if they can beat Weyburn twice, guess what that means?
It's going to be spicy.
Yeah, that's what it means. Melville plays the Kindersley Clippers tonight. Another interesting one. Melville, obviously 2 points out of a playoff spot right now. And maybe we'll see if they can take advantage of Kindersley, who is sliding. We'll see. Friday is a big night. All 12 teams are in action. Warman is in Estevan. Warman is in Estevan for a 2-game set. Melfort's in Yorkton. Weyburn, again, in Battleford's on game 2 of that back-to-back. Nipawin is playing the Humboldt Broncos. Melville is going to be playing Kindersley again, another back-to-back situation there. Flin Flon, plays Larange. We just talked about that earlier, but I forgot. Sorry, Larange, no break there against a team that wasn't super fun to play against on Wednesday. But they're at home, so it's a different venue, so who knows? Anything can happen. On Saturday, we got a couple more games. Again, this is the trade deadline on Saturday. So there's only 2 games that night. Most teams, I think, wanted to try to take that night off because the deadline is at 5 o'clock. Warman will be in Estevan still, and Battlefords will be in Melfort. So Battlefords has a busy weekend. And again, the deadline will have passed at this point. So Melfort, we'll have to see what they decide to do after Friday night, if they change their mind at all on anything. But we'll talk about that on Monday in the recap show. And then on Sunday, I think there's another game. Humboldt at 3 o'clock takes on the Nipawin Hawks. So Nugsy, it's a big weekend. Stay glued to your phones. If you're one of those people who love to like scour Twitter for news, if you just search the hashtag SJHL, if there's anything that goes on, I've been retweeting a lot of it with hashtag SJHL, what I've seen. So make sure you keep an eye on that. Search the hashtag SJHL. Keep an eye on me and Nugsy's Twitter accounts. We'll probably be retweeting stuff as it happens. Keep an eye on, obviously, our SJHL website. We'll have it. And Benny Walchuk's also doing a great job recapping all of the moves across the SJ and the MJ. So shout out to Benny. Go check out his blog. He puts it on his Twitter if you want to go to his Twitter account right now, or I think he's put it on Facebook too, but it's his blog, so you can go check that out. All the transactions will be reported, and who knows how many there'll be. We'll have to keep an eye on it. But there's going to be, what was the number? 10, 11 great games this weekend, Nugsy, to keep an eye on. So before we go, final word to you, sir.
Yeah, should be interesting. We'll see what happens. I think a lot of coaches and people said, "Oh, it's going to be quiet." I think Kamish came on and said it's going to be quiet.
He did.
It's not much to do. Blah, blah, blah. Well, there were 7 trades yesterday.
Yeah.
So is that the height or I really don't know.
If that's the height, then
but
it's
I'd be
still pretty
surprised.
good.
I think people are using their thumbs quickly to text a lot. I think it's going down. I think it's going to be busy in a couple days.
Stay tuned. We'll keep you as up to date as we possibly can. 11 great games. Enjoy the hockey this weekend, everybody. We'll see you on Monday for SJHL Weekly. Bye for now.
Playoffs? Don't talk about it. Playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs?